impose mask orders. Yes. He asked if we were going to, the board was going to discuss the business first. And I said yes. We're going to go according to our usual agenda, and public comment is always at the end. I'm sorry?
Talk louder. Yes, the vote will be after public comment. Take your mask off. Yeah. No, louder.
We're meeting about mandatory masks. I think you should have your mask up.
Some of you do.
We're going to learn more about ourselves today, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's sad.
Yes. We'll now have an update from our health officer, Martha Hall.
All right. I think everybody will be able to hear me. No? Okay. Can you hear me back there now?
No.
Okay. Can somebody turn that up a little bit there on the wall?
Martha,
Thank you.
take your mask down so it articulates better.
No.
You're 6 feet away from us.
If I'm able to be heard.
No, you can be
That's all
heard.
right. If you can
Okay.
be heard.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so just to give the board a brief update as far as the current situation here in Lenawee County. According to the CDC COVID transmission indicators, the community transmission, we are at a high level of community transmission. Our test positivity rate is at 12.2% for the week of August 27th through September 2nd. New cases, we are experiencing 247.8 weekly cases per 100,000 population, and that was also ending on September 2nd. As far as our school-related or school-age cases in Lenawee County, the week of 8/29 to 9/4, COVID cases for school age here in Lenawee County increased 81% from the previous week. All other age groups increased 24%. Over the last 4 weeks, the average weekly increase in school age cases was 54% in school age, compared to 36% in the other age groups. School outbreaks. Right now we have 5 school districts that have outbreaks. 4 of those are are related to school sports, and 3 of those are related to classroom situations. And it's important to remember that the school age cases don't just impact the school setting itself. The staff at the schools, families, and other members of the community can also be impacted. And then looking at our vaccination data, for our 12 to 15-year-olds, we have almost 25%, 24.6% that are fully vaccinated. For the 16 to 19-year-olds, we have 29.1% that are completely vaccinated. Looking at 12 and older, 48.19% of the population here in Lenawee County that's eligible for vaccination is vaccinated. A number that I also ran just because I find it to be an interesting number is that when we look at 12 to 64, so age 12 to 64 years of age, so individuals that are eligible for vaccination that are also very likely still in the workforce, 40.1% have been fully vaccinated. So So that's local data. Looking at some national data, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, we have seen child cases have increased exponentially over the last several weeks, with a 5-fold increase during the past month, rising from 38,000 cases the week ending July 22nd to over 200,000 cases that past week of August 26th. Looking at hospitalization data among the 24 states reporting, as well as New York City, children range from 1.6 to 3.6% of the total accumulated hospitalizations, and 0.1% to 1.9% of all of the child COVID cases resulted in hospitalization.
How about that?
How small is 0.1%?
That's
Okay.
decorum, keep decorum.
CDC released,
Jesus.
also released a report on September 3rd indicating that the weekly COVID-associated hospitalization rate for 100,000 children and adolescents during that week ending August 14th was nearly 5 times the rate during the week ending June 26th. And when we're looking at children 0 to 4 years of age, the weekly hospitalization rate the week ending August 14th was nearly 10 times that during the week ending June 26th. So that is some data that to just for the board to consider. As far as the schools, prevention strategies that have been recommended by the CDC, MDHHS, as well as the Lenawee County Health Department, included promoting vaccination, consistent and correct mask use. The CDC, MDHHS, and the American Academy of Pediatrics all recommend that all students 2 years of age and older, as well as staff, wear masks in school regardless of vaccination status. And also physical distancing, recommendations for physical distancing to be able to reduce the risk of transmission of COVID. Screening testing, so that's where we're doing testing in the schools to try and find those cases that might be asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, and so that we're not potentially transmitting within the school. Increasing ventilation, so bringing fresh outdoor air into a building to help keep the virus particles moving through. Hand washing and respiratory etiquette, so just making sure that we're modeling, monitoring, and reinforcing how important hand washing is and covering those coughs and sneezes. Staying home when we're sick and getting tested for COVID or potentially other illnesses. And then contact tracing, and that in combination with isolation and quarantine, and then cleaning and disinfection. So those were the recommendations that were made to the schools. In addition, for the universal masking, it is also recommended by the Michigan chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And then there was also a letter that was signed by 21 Michigan healthcare systems recommending masking in all indoor public settings. So just really encouraging the public to wear masks when we were in indoor public settings. With the increase in the number of cases and increase of the Delta variant here in the community, as well as nationally, just all of those prevention measures that we can utilize to try and cut down on the transmission of that virus. There is ample research to show that using the use of masks, the efficacy of masks.
Cite them.
Proceedings of the National Academy of Science indicated that the preponderance of evidence indicates that mask wearing reduces transmissibility per contact. Public mask wearing is most effective at reducing the spread of the virus when compliance is high, and recommended adopting the wearing of cloth face masks as an effective form of source control. So using that cloth face covering so that if individuals are infectious, that they are using that covering as source control to prevent the respiratory droplets from moving on to other individuals.
How about at schools?
Nobody talking out of order, or you'll be asked to leave. Wait your turn.
Well, I can ask questions though, it's a simple question, right?
No,
It's not a simple question?
not until it's public comment. I'm sorry, Martha. Go ahead.
That's the information that I wanted to share.
Okay.
So somebody make the motion.
Do we have a rough draft of exactly what this is going to be?
I did.
Are we gonna discuss that?
We can certainly have conversation about the potential for what could be contained within that. Yes. So essentially, what I would be looking at is an order that would be pre-K through 12 and would require masks to be worn in indoor educational settings.
Nope. Hell no.
Oh, absolutely. So if, with regard to benefits for the school, in addition to the benefit of reduced transmission of the virus within the schools, in addition to that, by having a universal masking policy, and if they are also then able to maintain at least 3 feet of distance between students in the classroom, then they would be able to have an alternative option for quarantine so that students would be able to continue to go to school as long as masks were being worn and there was at least 3 feet of distance between the students.
Now, I understand that the counties that have already instituted this in the state of Michigan, such as Washington.
Not hear you. Not hear at all back here.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Don't have a mask on here.
In regards to counties in the state of Michigan that have already instituted a mask mandate, a lot of them have different rules. So it's certain kids in certain situations that need to read lips, that can't hear, things like that. Those students, there's exemptions. I was hoping that maybe we'd have a copy of the Washington mandate. I thought that was a good start.
Yeah. So the majority, in fact, I believe every order that is in place right now in the state of Michigan, that whilst they do vary between whether they might be K through 6 or they might be K-12 or maybe it's pre-K, 12, that wording might be different. But what you consistently see is that there are exemptions to be able to, so for eating, of course, you're not going to be able to eat with a mask on. There would be exemptions for developmental challenges where it's going to, where they're going to need to be able to read lips or to be able to see the mouth moving in order to help with that education piece.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion amongst the members? Are you ready to take public comment?
I yield my time until after the public comment.
I will do the same.
Okay. All right then, I guess we will start public comment
Start
period.
the shit show.
It's going to be a 3-minute limit. And I hope that we can get through this before Dr. Tritt has to leave to her next meeting.
I asked that whoever speaker comes up to the front so we can hear them. Or at least close enough that we can hear.
Yes, that's a good point. Terry Collins asked that whoever wants to speak, we would like them to come to the front so we can all hear them. How are we going to pick who speaks first or
Do it
second?
row by row.
Row by row?
You do it row by row, and then you know you haven't missed anyone, you know nobody's doing it twice. And you start at the back, you can start in the middle, you can start wherever you like, but just like you're at a buffet.
Anybody in the front row like to speak first? Okay, young lady.
John, they need to have the microphone so the people in the back can hear also.
You can just sit it right here on the table.
We'll set it on the end of the table.
That'll work.
Number one, a lot of people in this group don't believe these numbers are coming out, right?
Right.
Let's get that settled quick. Now, my speech tonight is about something that's lacking in this whole thing. It's called common sense. Common sense. Number one, we are told every day from our leaders to follow the science. Remember that, people? Okay, that means absolute common sense. But our leaders are not doing that. They're following a political agenda. They are scaring us to death with false numbers and false data. Masks are not good for our bodies. Scientists tell us the virus holes are smaller than the oxygen holes in the mask. A 5-year-old child can see that the mask doesn't work. The virus can travel into your body and out of your body anytime it wants to. We all know that the masks greatly reduce our oxygen intake and greatly increase our carbon dioxide intake. This does great harm to our children's bodies. When my 10-year-old grandson has to wear a mask for even an hour on the bus, he suffers all day with a headache. While trying to learn at school? So now he has to take Tylenol every day before getting on the bus. Can you imagine his day at school for hours with a mask on? We know of other health problems, such as shortness of breath. This affects the heart and the lungs. Wake up, parents. Symptoms of low oxygen level, headache, shortness of breath, fast heartbeat, coughing into the mask, by the way, wheezing, confusion when you're trying to understand what the teacher says, symptoms of too much carbon dioxide, fatigue, get this one, an inability to concentrate or think clearly. Think about this one when they're in school. It's nuts. They get headaches, flushing, dizziness, shortness of breath, rapid breathing, increased blood pressure. Also, now this is interesting, there's many side effects. The reason you don't know these side effects is the government has deliberately made the reporting system for the doctors so long and complicated that most doctors won't report them. They say that only 1 in every 100 doctors actually ever report any side effects. The government's doing this on purpose. In closing, doctors and nutritionists are telling us, now this is a good thing, the vitamin D3, take vitamin C, take zinc. Call your doctor for the amounts. These supplements strengthen your immune system and show you to help your body to fight the virus.
Time.
Please let us have a choice.
Anybody else in the front row? And I'm sorry, I should ask the lady that, I'd like you to state your name and where you're from, where you live.
No name, Clinton. Ms. Hall, what is the deaths due to COVID?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name.
No name.
No name?
Yep.
And he doesn't live anywhere either.
Okay.
Flint, Michigan. How many deaths are there?
Don't do it, Martha. Don't engage in answering their questions.
Isn't it supposed to be asked?
It's public comment. Have a public comment and say it.
Does anybody know the deaths?
470 kids have died.
Zero.
470
Zero,
kids have died in the
my
United
wife
States.
I'll be polite, so just please pipe down. All right. One thing. I have a 4-year-old daughter that's autistic, or 4th grader, and she has not been to school all year last year. She's back in school. She loves it. If you do this mask mandate, I'll be forced to pull her out. Now you fuck with my kids, I'm gonna fuck with all of you. That's a promise.
So excuse the limp. All right. I'll not yell into the microphone. All right. So you can follow the real science.
You are who and where from?
Oh, sorry. Lindsay Brayton from Onstead. You can follow real science, or you can follow the science. If you look into the science more, you will see that the science is backed by the money, as opposed to real science, which is backed by real science. I am now holding a microphone that several other people have touched, and couldn't help but notice that it wasn't disinfected between each person. This is a school, these are schools we're talking about, they are not hospitals. The school board and the health board cannot and should not be making medical decisions for our children. I'm impressed with anyone who gets up here to speak for masks, because they are in the minority. It took a lot of courage, it'll take a lot of courage for these people to speak up when this group here is clearly 90% non-masked. Thank you for showing up for our children. Inquiring of vaccine status is illegal according to HIPAA. You can't ask me if I've been vaccinated. I can't ask you about your colonoscopy. Requiring COVID testing is immoral. You're not sticking anything up my daughter's nose. Requiring vaccinations is illegal. Here are the numbers you're not getting from the news. Over 1 million reports of adverse effects on the vaccine, from the vaccine. And those are only the ones that doctors have reported, as we've heard. And there have been over 14,000 deaths from the vaccine so far. And those, actually, the number's much higher now. I've heard it's something like 47,000. But the numbers are being suppressed, so it's hard to know. My daughter can't wear a mask because her face breaks out in hives. The science of masks is all over the place. We'll hear plenty of people who will get up here and tell you that masks are causing our children problems, headaches, problems breathing. There have been many, many cases of bacterial infection in the lungs from last year alone from children who have been wearing these masks all day. And other people will say, well, surgeons wear masks all day. Yeah? Well, they're not kids spitting and snotting into their masks and then breathing it back in. The schools are not required to follow the rules of the CDC, the health department, or the governor's mandates. These so-called mandates are not laws. You are not lawmakers. You can make recommendations, but you do not make laws. Bottom line, requiring masks is illegal according to Michigan Legislature Revised School Code Section 380.1307B, which states, any restraint that negatively impacts breathing is prohibited under all circumstances, including emergency situations.
the manner in which you delivered your comment. Anybody else in the first row?
Bill Swift, Tecumseh, Michigan. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the ignorance that's being displayed in this room by people, like this fellow over here who thinks that he can come here and threaten and intimidate our
That's a
elected.
promise. I haven't said threat.
Yeah,
I promise, motherfucker.
I got it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do it. I'm not afraid, dude.
I'm not afraid either, man.
Good,
Let's go right now,
good.
buddy.
We're both not afraid.
Turn around.
In any event,
Please.
in any event, I'm prepared to continue.
I want this to remain to the point.
Absolutely.
I do not want personal attacks.
I didn't attack anybody.
I feel threatened.
I am going to say that there's been a lot of ignorance already talked about, and that's perfectly okay for me to say. Because people get up here and they spread information that they've gotten from Facebook or from the internet that isn't true, and they undermine what has been said by the people that have the facts at their disposal. And the fact of the matter is that it doesn't matter what any of these people think, and it doesn't really matter what I think either. What matters is that the legislature empowered you folks with the law to make these decisions and to protect the public health. So here's the deal. Whatever the experts say we should do is what we should be doing. And that's the bottom line. And I just want to address this issue about masking because there's so many people that seem to have a difficult time understanding how it works. And the fact of the matter is that we've been using masks since 1910. 1910 we've been using masks. And doctors have been using them effectively, cloth masks, just like the one I'm wearing right now, since then. And the reason that they did that is because there was an operating theater concern about spreading germs to open wounds. And if anybody saw like how long the actors in MASH had to wear masks day after day after day after day, it wasn't no big deal to them, right? And they didn't even have to worry about spreading germs when they were doing it. In any event, the wound that's being protected is each other's open mouths and nose. And it's germ theory, and germ theory is something that we know quite well. And if the experts say we should be masking, then that's what we should be doing. It really isn't up to people who learn stuff from Google to make those decisions. It's up to you guys. So I'm hoping that you're going to make the decision to protect the people and the students of the county. Thank you so much.
Anybody else in the first row? Anybody else in the first row? Second row. State your name and where you're from, please, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Kutcher and I'm from Clinton. And I'd like to say that I'm all in favor of listening to the experts. The problem that I have is that some of the experts are being censored and their information is not coming out. And you aren't going to find it if you're only listening to the mainstream media. And if you have to look on Facebook or the internet to find some of these other experts, then that's what you ought to be doing. I can name several that I've been following routinely for the last 18 months. Their posture hasn't changed. They can validate all of their beliefs. And I think we should be listening to both sides, not one. And my question for you, ma'am, is, are the statistics that you quoted talking about the number of cases based on the test that has now been stated the CDC has withdrawn and is not going to be allowed to be used after December because it is inaccurate and there are too many false positives? The other thing I'd like to say is that I practiced dental hygiene in this county for 51 years, and I was trained to expect that anybody walking in my laboratory might have something that I didn't want to get. Therefore, it was my obligation to protect myself and my body. I didn't expect anybody else to have to worry about that for me. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you want to be vaccinated, get vaccinated. It's my right to not have to put in my body. But if the masks work and the vaccines work, you shouldn't worry about what I am doing with my own.
Anybody else in the second row? There was somebody, okay.
Hi, I'm Pam Robertson. I'm from Adrian. I don't have statistics. I'm a substitute teacher here in the Adrian Public Schools, and I see the kids every day.
when I'm there, I see how they sneeze, how they cough, how some that are wearing masks are afraid to put down because they have to wear masks because their parents want them to wear. That's fine. Parents should, if you want to, let them. If you want to vaccinate, vaccinate. That's fine. That should be our choice. But what we're doing to our kids, if you could be there to see them every day, you would know that what we're doing to them is not right. Amen. It's not. Think about our kids before you make that choice.
Anybody else in the second row?
My name is Ashley in Lenawee County. So let's talk about some real science. A World Health article cites 42 references in regards to masking. Some important takeaways from this article are as follows. In this meta-analysis, face masks were found to have no detectable effect against transmission of viral infections. It found compared to no mask, there was no reduction in influenza-like illness cases or influenza for masks in the general population, nor in healthcare workers. This 2020 meta-analysis found that evidence from randomized controlled trials of face masks did not support a substantial effect on transmission of laboratory-confirmed influenza, either worn by infected persons with source control or by persons in general community to reduce their susceptibility. A 2019 study of 2,862 participants showed that both N95 respirators and surgical masks resulted in no significant difference in the incidence of laboratory-confirmed influenza. A study of 44 mask brands found a mean average of 35.6 penetration, most medical masks over 20% penetration. While general masks and handkerchiefs had no protective function in terms of aerosol filtration efficiency, the study found that medical masks, general masks, and handkerchiefs were found to provide little protection against respiratory aerosols. In another study, penetration of cloth masks by particles was almost 97%, and medical masks, 44%. According to an article in the Academy of Pediatrics, since the onset of coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic, children have been less affected than adults in terms of severity and frequency, accounting for less than 2% of the cases. I'd also like to mention that there are over 74 million kids in the U.S. Unlike with other viral respiratory infections, children do not seem to be a major vector of severe acute respiratory syndrome and the SARS-CoV-2 transmission, with most pediatric cases described inside familial clusters and no documentation of child-to-child or child-to-adult transmission. In fact, the US CDC found that COVID-19 hospitalization rates for people aged 65 and over are within range of influenza hospitalization rates, with rates somewhat higher for people aged 18 to 64, but much lower compared to influenza for people under 18. We have over 98,000 residents in Lenawee County. Less than 0.05% of them have COVID. Many experts have stated that COVID numbers reflect that of a flu season. Every year, many hospitals set up overflow areas for flu patients, or did the mainstream media forget to tell you that? By the way, isn't it funny how you all have almost completely stopped counting flu numbers, and almost everything is now COVID? Funny how that works when money is involved. Actually, it's not funny at all. Mass testing and vaccines should always be a choice, free from mandates, coercion, threats, and incentives.
Time.
We are done being lied to and manipulated.
Anybody else in the second row? Third row? Okay.
Karen Waldman from Manitow Beach. Martha Hill, what are your stats on the flu?
Her name's Hall.
Martha Hall. What are your stats on the flu? Did it go away?
Joan, don't.
Is it forever gone, or are you just not peddle those or fearmonger those? From behind your face diapers. I understand that some of you are probably elected, and some of you are probably going for a pension. But peddling this fear and using our children to do it from behind your face diapers is inexcusable. And you can still get your retirements without doing that.
That's right.
Shame on you.
Hello, my name is Ellen Parsons. I'm an educator in Lenawee County, and I am here to not list a lot of facts. I'm going to let everyone else do that because I know you have them. I'd like to tell you a personal story. And before I tell you the story, I'd like to ask you, and just think about it in your mind, when was the last time you spent an entire school day in an early L classroom? So I teach our youngest population, and I am here to advocate for my students. I care about these kiddos so much, and I've seen such a difference from last year to this year in their happiness, in their facial expressions, in their communication skills, in their ability to understand what I'm saying and to engage with me and their fellow students. So last year, COVID was in the air much more than it. The fear of COVID was in the air much more than COVID itself. I worked really hard to make my classroom a safe place to be. The very first day of school, it's a horrifying story but funny at the same time. One of my 6-year-old students came across the classroom with a dripping wet mask on the first day of school, and I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? He said, Mrs. Parsons, this fell in the toilet. So I'm thinking, I have to protect these children from E. coli, the same as I have to protect them from COVID. We survived here. We did well, but I have so many stories of disgusting, unsanitary masks. We are adults and we can barely handle this. These kids had them in the toilet, had them up their nose, had them in their pockets, had them on their desk. No matter how skilled of a teacher someone was, we can't control that kind of thing with young friends. These kids are better off without the mask. I'll let everyone else tell the facts, but please, you guys are our first line of defense against this tyranny. We have to protect these babies. We have to.
That's what they're trying to do.
Please do what you can to think about their emotional status. We're adults and we're struggling. These guys should not grow up this way. So please, thank you for listening. And I wasn't going to speak, but I'm so impassioned about them, and I have to advocate for them. So thank you for listening.
Anybody else in the third row?
My name's Todd Jenkins. I'm from Clinton. First of all, I'd like to commend each and every one of you in here, whether you have a mask on or not, because you are exercising your right as a United States citizen to make up your own mind. Okay? I am a father of 5. I'll soon be a grandfather of 9. I've done okay thus far. Okay? I've made decisions that were best for my children, be it schooling them in the public education system or homeschooling. Done both. Not every child is the same. Do not put a blanket on our kids. They're individuals. They're being raised by parents who love them. They're going to make the right choice. Everybody should be able to make up their own mind as to what is best for them and their family.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Mr. Swift?
It's not how it works.
I can tell you that's not how it works.
Go drunk driving then.
But that's how it should work.
Go drunk driving then. You should have no
I
problem
don't
with that.
drink and drive, sir. What else would you like me to do? It's him.
Okay, when people are speaking, please be respectful and do not interrupt. That includes everybody. Thank you.
Anybody else in the third row?
Isn't it funny that they interrupted me the whole time I was talking? It's fine.
Hello, I'm
a student within Lenawee County. My name's Landon. Here to speak about truth and freedom. The past 2020-2021 school year, we were forced to wear masks in the schools and on buses. When wearing a mask, I would start to feel dizzy, lightheaded, and have constant headaches. The reason why I and others would feel this way is a thing called low blood oxygen levels. When this happens, it causes the following problems such as headaches and shortness of breath. In severe cases, it can cause interfering with heart and brain functions. The symptoms of low blood oxygen levels, but are not limited to headache, shortness of breath, faster heart rate, coughing, and confusion. If you think these masks are protecting you and others, several experts that even made the masks have said the holes in the mask that pass the oxygen are much larger than the particles of COVID. That means COVID can enter or exit your body at times at once. Masks are ineffective. Through the summer, I've been to a couple places that people gather. I'm around several thousands of people that aren't wearing masks. I never got sick nor got the virus. Schools are not required to follow the rules of the CDC, local health department, or the governor. Even if they call them mandates or requirements, they are not laws. Requiring masks in the school systems is illegal according to the Michigan Legislature Revised School Code 380.1307B, which states any restraint that negatively impacts breathing is prohibited under any other circumstances. The 14th Amendment states no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States. I believe that if you want to wear a mask or get vaccinated, that's your choice. Listen, I have a question for everybody. What do all these things have in common? Cancer, smoking, alcohol, HIV/AIDS, traffic accidents, suicide, and seasonal flu. Any guesses?
Yeah, higher than COVID deaths.
Well, these have killed more people individually than the coronavirus itself. In conclusion, I would like to share these words that I feel are beyond relevant to our current situation. Former President FDR said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Stop trying to cast fear into the superintendents and the school boards, and most importantly, us, the students. Thank you.
Anybody else to the third row?
I just one real quick question, so I didn't take my 3 minutes. Where do we find the procedure for testing in schools? Or is that not allowed to be answered? Because you're talking about testing in schools, you mentioned it, I believe. So I was just wondering what that procedure is and who's involved.
Are you allowed to talk, Mark?
So there was a recommendation, and there's the tests are
Excuse me.
available.
Would you put the thing in front of her? Thank you.
It was a recommendation that was made. Tests are available through the state of Michigan, through MDHHS. The schools can request those tests to be able to do that. And there are different models that can be used as far as the testing, either individual testing, pool testing, and there is information that's on the MDHHS
So it's up
website
to
about
each
that.
individual
Sorry.
district then, right?
Yes,
Okay,
each
so that would
individual
come
district.
From our district if we choose to leave our children in school.
Yes, the individual districts would make the decisions. And for clarity, those recommendations that I mentioned, those are the recommendations that have been out there for quite some time, for several weeks.
My name is Ricky Carson. I work in Adrian Public Schools and I work for Sand Creek Schools, and I have a child in Sand Creek Schools. My bigger concern at this point is why are we quarantining healthy kids again? The data we have from last year shows that we had no cases of kids in quarantine who subsequently contracted COVID from the close contact person from school. That's the science, that's the data we should be following. I don't know what science and data we're talking about, but we have science and data that shows our kids are not at risk. They are not spreading it. Even if they do, we have one kid who's gone to the hospital this year at St. Creek. Wasn't for COVID, it's for strep throat, which by the way, last year because of wearing a mask, my child had 4 times last year, and the doctor told her specifically it was from wearing a mask. Nice. We dropped the contract tracing and quarantining last spring. Why? Why is it back now all of a sudden? Why is it snuck in this summer and all of a sudden we're contact tracing and quarantining healthy kids again? Why? So that now we can come in and say, please unmask our kids, and they say, you can say, oh, well, we'll stop contact tracing and quarantining if you do this. No, it's not a game, people. Science and data isn't a game. Okay, these kids' lives are not a game. You have kids who have had 3 years of high school disrupted now. Missing opportunities, missing experiences, missing memories. Okay? Their attendance is being affected, their grades are being affected, their opportunities for the future is being affected, their livelihood. When you sit and hold your child, your 15-year-old child, sobbing in your hands like I did again last night because her team's getting shut down, because their school's getting shut down. Explain why we're doing this when the science and data do not back it. Why are we discriminating against the unvaxxed? If you're vaccinated, which is your choice, why do you care if I'm wearing a mask if you're protected? Because you're not, because they clearly stated that the vaccine was not intended to keep you from contracting and only lessens your symptoms. So if that's the case, why do the unvaxxed get to continue, or the vaxxed get to continue to go to school? A teacher with a vaccinated child in her home is still teaching our kids. So if it's so deadly, why is she allowed back in? Because she's vaccinated? It doesn't mean that she can't contract it and pass it. So stop discriminating. Stop trying to bully us. Stop using tactics to force us to do things that are not safe and are not good for our kids and our family and our community. When we talk about testing, last spring I had to test athletes every week. If this is the world's deadliest, most contagious, horrible virus ever seen, why do you have some Yahoo coaches administering tests, medical tests, completely? I had a 30-second video I watched administering medical tests in a cafeteria in a gymnasium, determining those things on a Sunday evening. It's ridiculous.
Anybody else in the third row?
Hey there. Promised I wasn't going to speak, but here it goes. My name is Bill Casper. I'm a respiratory nurse at U of M. I've been taking care of COVID patients for the last 18 months. I've seen a lot of people die. I've seen a lot of people end up with heart transplants. I've had personal friends that have died. Sir, you want to take care of your kids? Do whatever you can to keep them safe. I'm just telling you, sir.
What about my kids? I'll take care of them, all right.
Okay, well, I'm at U of M on respiratory unit 6C. I am not on MOTS, no. I am not on MOTS.
Do you have any kids in the school district?
I have.
They're interrupting him.
So you don't? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm not here to, I'm just telling you what I've seen over the past. I haven't personally seen, I don't take care of kids. How many adults have I sent to the ICU unit and have died? I sent a lady last week. She had COVID. She went from 2 units.
Underlying issues?
Any underlying? Some of them do, some of them don't. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing here.
You gotta be more specific from all these stats.
Sure. Underlying issues, yes. People that have underlying, we had a guy, COPD, he had underlying issues and he was vaccinated and he had to go to ICU. Did he die? Now we've also had people that have come back a year later. I had a guy I took care of back in December. He got COVID pretty bad, and now he's back because he had organ damage. So death isn't the only measurement. There's other things. There's lung damage. There's heart damage. There's kidney damage. And I see a lot of people in here not wearing masks. I get it. It's hard, to be a kid, to go, but people are willing not to wear masks and they don't want to get a vaccine. They don't want to have this put in their body, but yet they'll come to us, the nurses, and then we'll pump them full of remdesivir and dexamethasone and other drugs.
Horse dewormer.
I'm sorry, what?
Horse dewormer.
It's an antiviral, and Decadron is a steroid, and we pump them full of this, but they're not willing to get a vaccine. I mean, I personally thought we had this on a run when the vaccine came out, but
isn't that your job though, to treat patients?
It is my job, it's a fireman's job to put out fires too, sir. But you don't have an arsonist running up and down the street like that. Take care of you.
Again,
I'm not, I'm just telling you what I see.
Excuse me, listen. Again, let the people who are speaking, speak. Don't be shouting out questions, don't be shouting out comments. People are here to express their opinion, that's what public comment is all about. It's not an exchange of ideas.
You did ask me a question, though.
In this environment.
Okay, I'm just trying to be polite and give you information. I'm not trying to get in anybody's face here, but I can tell you this, my coworkers, we're tired of it. We're getting burned out. We're getting short of nurses.
Why is that?
Why is it?
Because they're leaving and they're quitting. They're tired of it. You know how many people we come in and we take care of that aren't vaccinated, and they go, "Wow, I wish we would have got the vaccine." Oh man. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Anybody else in the third row?
I, like you, sir, said I wasn't going to speak either today. My name is Kimberly Jenkins, and I'm from Clinton. I'm a holistic health practitioner, and it's hard to sit here and listen to all this because one thing that isn't being talked about is our God-given, beautifully created, complex, amazing immune systems. And there's 3 different sections of your immune system, but one I would like to talk about today is your adaptive immunity. And that, you're born with an innate immunity, but what adapted and what is growing in these children and developing is their adaptive immunity, and we are not allowed that. We're not allowing that to happen by quarantining our kids and keeping masks over them, which I don't really believe it works anyways. But I'm assuming. Sorry. I'm assuming you all know what I'm talking about with the immune system. This is the health department. But how can no mask, no doctor, no medicine, no vaccine could ever be stronger and more adaptive and amazing and powerful than our own immune systems? So we need to let that develop in our children. The whole stop the spread, that's impossible. It is impossible to stop the spread. We see that. We see how people are still getting it, and yes, people are dying. It is a serious illness, and especially with people who aren't healthy. Elderly people have weakened immune systems. Someone who has a disease has a weakened immune system. Your body can only handle so much. So if you already have diabetes and a heart condition and a lung condition, something can take you very easily. The influenza does it all the time. A bacterial infection, UTIs take people all the time. So yes, I would love to just hear more about boosting our immune system. Let these kids be in contact with. It's healthy for your body. You have fungus and bacteria and viruses all around us, everywhere. I'm not afraid to touch this because I work on my immune system. I take herbs and I take vitamins and I try to eat healthy. So I don't think stopping the spread is really the answer. The answer is do your best to be healthy. And if you need some help, call me. I'd love to help you. Thank you.
Anybody else in the third row? Fourth row.
Hello, my name's Sarah Sovis. I'm from Britain. I don't have any facts for science. I just want to tell you our
my personal situation with my 6-year-old. And I have a few questions. My 5-year-old attended school last year in Britain. Everyone was required to wear a mask. We have for 18 months followed the rules. We were closed from November until January with all of the kids wearing a mask because of the high transmission of COVID in our school while wearing masks. So we were closed for 2 months. In those 2 months that we were closed, my daughter was home being taught on a computer in kindergarten. Now, my daughter has anxiety. We have figured it out this summer. She's scared of many things. She wasn't like that until we started public school last year. I also, when we were in the pediatrician once last year, he made a comment to her, you need to stop chewing on your mask, it's wet. And this is Dr. William Chamness, IHA West Arbor in Ann Arbor. No mask, once it is wet, will protect you against COVID. Though, once the mask is wet, it is no longer effective. It doesn't matter if it's cloth, it doesn't matter if it's paper. Once it is wet, it is no longer effective. My daughter chewed holes in her mask every day last year. No matter how much I asked her not to do it, no, she's 5. She was scared because they talked about this virus all the time. Every single place she went, she was scared. So if the masks are doing what you say they're going to do, why are kids getting COVID? Why are so many kids having anxiety in kindergarten? And why are doctors saying that they will not work once they are wet? Why are we going to, and then we live in Britain. Almost all the high school kids have had COVID. We were shut down. Why is it going to have to be a county-wide mask thing? We should be able to decide for ourselves what is best for our children. For 18 months, I complied with everything to try to keep everyone else safe. I got vaccinated. My daughter wore a mask. We wore a mask in public. We did all of the things you're supposed to do. Now I want it right. After doing what I was asked to do, I want the right to do what I want to do with my daughter's body. What anybody wants to do. If your kid wants to wear a mask, let him wear a mask. If my daughter doesn't want to wear a mask, she should not have to. Thank you. And thank you for the gentleman that was nurse.
Hi, my name is Isaac Bowers, and I reside in Manitou Beach, Michigan. I'm a father of 3 children who attend Lenawee Public Schools in Ingham County. I'm here today to address what you were calling COVID-19, or the Delta variant. I'm going to start right out and say there's no proof that this is what they say it is. And we know this because there's no legal case where COVID has been recognized. Lenawee County saw hardly any cases in the beginning of this scamdemic. It was until the larger cities transported COVID cases to our rural hospitals and the controversial actions of how nursing homes were handled that we saw any surge in cases in this county. That was following what the professionals told us to do. I'm also not here to talk about numbers, and I do believe your place is to educate our children. I'm worried about what you're actually teaching outside of what's going on here. And I saw the surge in summer school last year due to the lack of leadership and the ill-prepared state officials. We know the school has lawyers, do you? And do you have the time and energy and ability to deal with all of us in court, the Constitution and Supreme Court that upholds our freedom, and the protests that will ensue while giving our children the education they deserve? I'm skeptical. We realize the wall we're all being backed into. That's why we're here today. We hope you choose to work with us as we have worked with you in the past. I have a son, Henry, who's with me today, and he is 7 points from genius and barely made it through the 11th grade last year because of the little thing we all know is ingenuity. I know, and I hope it's still there, that there's a building nearby that states that Jesus Christ is the Lord over Lenawee County. And if you choose to follow along with this and affect our children and families in that way that Jesus never would, I hope it haunts you every day of your life. Thank you.
I had no intention of coming up here like several others. My name is Christine, I'm from Adrian. And all I want to say is, do any of you have a backbone? We need men and women who are not bought and paid for. Most of us are sick of the traditional politicians. We've got families, we've got kids, we've got real life issues that we're facing. And I just want to say, I had foster kids come through our house. I don't know if any of you have ever had foster kids, but our foster kids were severely abused. And to ask a child to put a mask on their face when they've had their hands covered and they've been through severe abuse, you're just adding more trauma and abuse to that child. Yep. And I've got a son who's got asthma, and I heard the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Wear a mask while you play sports. Are you kidding me? We need people who are going to stand up and fight for our kids. And I'm sorry, and I will say this, I had COVID. I got tested for COVID, and I was positive. I had not one symptom. But I also make a choice to eat healthy, go out and get vitamin C, and exercise, take the vitamins and herbs. I do my part on what I need to do, and I want to make that choice for my family. And I want to bring up one other thing, and I would encourage all of you to go home and look this up. Veritas. I don't know how many of you are familiar with what happened in the state of Michigan. Fake news. Cherry Health, Heart of the City Healthcare, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please go check this out, Veritas. They had their employees get in line at a hospital to fake getting tested. Are you kidding me? If you want to know why we don't trust what we hear and what we see, that's the reason why. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else in the fourth row?
Hi, my name is Sharon Pickens, and my children go to Sand Creek High School, and they were new to the district last year as freshmen, and along with what this other gentleman was saying, my kids were quarantined so many times last year for close contact and never contracted it. Funny. But my daughter, who was a National Junior Honor Society, I'm sorry, do you have a problem? Yeah. My daughter, who was a National Junior Honor Society member, had 4 Fs in the middle of the school year because she had lost hope. So it's real. And, you know, listen to the parents, because we're the ones that live with this. These kids are being ripped out of their education. You know, we're taxpayers. We're not getting what we're paying for. So it's not fair to these children. I have a daughter in quarantine right now. I was like, are you kidding me? After what we went through last year, she says, Mom, I promise this year's gonna be different. And I don't know how it can be different if this is how we're starting out, okay? My son is not in quarantine, but he might as well be, because he had to forfeit his football game last week because we didn't have enough players to play. So it's gotta stop, and I feel like it's a personal choice, whether you wanna wear a mask or not, and my children choose not to, and they need to be in school, not at home. I don't have time to homeschool them. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the fourth row? Fifth row.
My name is Kay Rayleigh Arby. Last name is B-A-R-B-E-E. I live and work in Adrian. I have 2 kids in the Adrian Public Schools. I know that there are a lot of people who have strong feelings and opinions about masks. But I'm here to ask that you remember that your job is purely to ensure the health and safety of this county. I'm not here to give you the data or the studies, all of which have been shared and read and circulated for weeks, even as new studies and data come out daily. You have access to that information, the good, scientific, proven data, not the distorted, manipulated, and cherry-picked. You have guidance from the CDC, and you have some of the best people in the medical and health fields doing what they are trained to do, deliver the science. You know COVID is dangerous, no question. I know that you know how easily Delta spreads and how younger people are getting it. I know that you recognize this isn't just about mortality rates. You know doctors are seeing long-haul cases and have yet to determine all the possible lasting impacts of Delta on even their youngest patients. I don't think you need to be shown data that masks work to minimize the spread and save lives. You already know that. And I don't think you believe masks are dangerous or a form of child abuse, or that measures to mandate masks are infringing on people's rights. But I do believe that you have to be convinced to act, because it's clear that many people in positions to mandate masks or to take other safety measures are not willing to do so if it means facing threats and abuse that would be directed at them. I can only assume that many working in public health or sitting on school boards in Lenawee wished that Lansing would just do it for them. But Lansing isn't coming to save us. And that's okay, because you all have a responsibility to do that. It's your job. And in my mind, that is all you need to be reminded of. You have the information, you know what is coming in the next few months as Delta, and now a new variant, spreads. And you are in a position to help protect the public. Please do it. Please call for a vote on a mask mandate and other safety measures today.
Thank you.
My name is Melissa Dempsey, and I live in Adrian. And yes, you are the health department, but I don't need you to help keep my kids safe. I'm here today as a parent of 2 teenage boys, asking you to leave the parenting to us, the parents. To the best of my knowledge, I don't see any of you giving financial support or any of the government. You don't come around and run them to games and practices. You haven't been around to offer up advice on dating or which classes would best fit their schedules. I certainly do not need your assistance now on how to keep them safe. And I say this because I have one child who suffers from migraine, another who suffers from asthma. So it's not crazy. And they were told, wear a mask. It'll keep us safe. How is an asthmatic forced to wear a mask and play sports? That's the even funnier part. And you can cite true scientific evidence, I have it here, from the CDC and the World Health Organization that says if a mask gets wet, you do not wear it. But our kids last year, and I feel you're going to go down the same road or try to, that sports, oh my gosh, it's such a super spreader. They better mask up. There are doctors on the other side. Dr. Russell Blaylock, he's a board-certified neurosurgeon, a health practitioner, author, and lecturer, and I quote, I am warning, not only do face masks fail to protect the healthy from getting sick, but they also create serious health risk to the wearer. The bottom line is that if you're not sick, you should not wear a face mask. He's also been involved in several other studies. One involved healthcare workers aged 21 to 35 who had to wear the mask for several hours a day. They found that 81% developed headaches from wearing the mask, and all of them felt the headaches affected their work performance. So to say it doesn't matter, it matters. He was also in another study that looked at surgeons who also have to wear the mask. They found that the surgeons had to wear this blood oximeter, and they found that all of their blood oxygen levels were very low after surgery. So the longer the duration of wearing the mask, the greater the fall in the blood oxygen levels. So again, it does matter. These kids are in school for hours a day. Again, one that the migraines got worse, the other one had to use an inhaler more. And you said there's no studies out there. There are. In fact, there are several studies. One from emerging infectious diseases that the CDC supported, and another one that the WHO supported. Advice on the use of masks in the content of COVID-19. They're quite interesting, and I have them if you'd like to look them up. The first one, non-pharmaceutical measures for pandemic in non-healthcare settings, personal protective environmental measures. Here we review the evidence on the, well, I asked you to read.
Finish, go ahead and finish.
It says, here we review the evidence based on effectiveness of non-pharmaceutical personal protective measures and environmental hygiene measures in non-healthcare settings and discuss the potential inclusion in pandemic plans. Although mechanistic studies support the potential effect of hand hygiene, face masks, the evidence from 14 randomized control trials of these measures did not support a substantial effect on transmission in laboratory confirmed cases.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Heather, I'm from Sand Creek. So I brought this today. It's a personal air purifier. It repels viruses, bacteria, mold, mildew, and allergens. So if you guys are really about protecting the kids, then this should be no problem in schools, right? It creates a 4-foot bubble and viruses can't get to you like the mask. I also want to state I have a child with severe asthma who was also told to wear a mask and ended up using his inhaler probably 10 times a day at school, ended up at the doctor's with heart palpitations because of it, was suspended 4 times because he couldn't breathe and he had the audacity to take his mask down. 2 of my other kids had strep constantly. My middle son had tonsil abscesses from that, and the doctor said it was from the masks. And that's pretty much all I have to say, but if you want to pass this around and check it out, feel free. Come get it later.
Anybody else in the 5th row?
Okay. Hello, I'm Brady Allman. I'm from Tecumseh, and I wanted to talk about masks and personal protective equipment. And I just want to start out by saying that I have background in medicine, and when I, well, in the medical field. And when I would work, when we would work with patients that were sick, we would wear our masks, we would wear gloves, we would gown up, go into their rooms, take care of them, give them their care, and then when we left, we'd take all that stuff off and throw it away. So as not to cross-contaminate to other patients. We did not make every single person in the unit wear a mask. All the other patients did not have to wear masks. It was just the people that were in direct contact for those few moments, and then we left. And I just, when this first started, I was for checking out masks. My husband has a pre-existing condition. I wanted to know what he needed to have to be safe. I got on my OSHA
looked at all the PPE equipment videos, and not one single mask protects anybody else. It's personal protective equipment. It only protects you. So there's nothing that is going to protect somebody else. It's just yourself. And the cloth masks do nothing. And 95s are the only ones that will protect stuff coming in. Are you guys showing out for N95s? Are you going to give a new N95 mask to each student when they exit a classroom and then enter another classroom, or go to gym class, or go to a sports equipment or sports event? No, you're not. Although, after looking into like the funding and stuff, I feel like they have the money to do so, because there's a huge push for keeping these recommendations going. I would just like to say that the masks don't work. They only protect you for a short amount of time. Even surgeons, surgical masks, you are in a sterile environment. You can only wear it for so long, and then it's not sterile anymore. You take it off, you throw it away, you get a new one. So I just want you to know that you guys are doing the right thing. Masks are not helpful. They're not protecting anybody. And it's just very oppressive. So thank you.
Anybody else in the fifth row? Sixth row?
Robert Wright, I live in Onstead, I work at St. Creek, but I'm going to go on record that I do not represent the board or its administration. They're great people, but it's time to stand up for my own personal beliefs. I'll make sure I stay my 6 feet. I don't envy you. I've been a superintendent. I know what it's like to have the pressure. I'm sorry, I'll speak louder. I'm an educator, I've been doing it for 30 years. I have too many things, too many show and tell. I appreciate the county health department putting out today, you should be wearing a mask. The key word there is should. It is a personal choice. This is what you should be doing, is informing the community. But as I look at the 3 bullet points here, if this is what it's going to take, if any of these things have to change before we don't have to wear a mask, transmission is high, the virus is transmitted through respiratory droplets, and we still have a portion of our population not eligible for the vaccination, then what's ever going to change? We did. Educators did what you asked, what the governor asked for 18 months. Parents were promised. Superintendents got together and said, hey, we're not going to enforce recommendations. Well, all bets are off. We've been in school. St. Creek, we've been in school less than 3 weeks. 150 different students are quarantined. At 8 hours a day. You can do the math. I do have to do a shame on you. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, working parents. I'm shocked we have this many, but it needs to be later so that people can voice. Just saying. Cost-benefit analysis. My background is math. So I look at numbers. The cost of our kids wearing masks. I see it every day. I don't have any kids in the school. My daughters are graduated. They're health professionals. But I'm standing up for the 600 kids who are at St. Creek Junior Senior High School. They're not kids. There's an obvious difference in our school. Until, of course, last Thursday we had to cancel our game. Because we have so many quarantined and unrelated COVID illnesses. We had 9 players for 11. We were going to play with 12, but we only had 9. I'm the athletic director there, by the way. If masks work, why aren't they working? They didn't work last year, right? And virus is going to mutate again. We already heard it, right? News coming, right? But the virus is going to get less lethal. Is that right, Martha? It gets less lethal, but more contagious. That's everything I've read about virus. So it's going to continue. I tell my kids when I meet with them, and we go through the athletic code, I say, it's coming to you. Why? Because also people have either had it, I've had it, hospitalized. Thank God I survived. I don't use that, thank God, sparingly. Thank God I was blessed. But they're gonna get it next because they're not vaccinated, right? Most of them don't even know they have it. Last year, we coerced our parents.
Time.
Can
You
I
can have
finish
my
this?
time.
Can I have two more statements? All I want to make. Last year, we coerced the parents of our athletes. They had to allow their kids to be tested in order to play. This year, you're coercing the local school board, superintendent, and administration to own up and have these kids wear masks. It's wrong. It should be a personal choice.
Can you hear me okay? My name is Melinda Folks. I'm from Adrian. I am a high school learning center specialist. That means I get to work with the students who have 504 and IEPs. I work with students who are already at a disadvantage academically. And my student load has increased this year due to new diagnoses of PTSD caused by COVID-19. Mask wearing, quarantining, isolation has absolutely traumatized students to the point that they can no longer function in life as a normal human being. I have students who have never moved past March 13th, 2020, the last day that we had school before we went into quarantine to stop the COVID pandemic. And we are here. Last year, we had to wear masks all year. Again, I deal with students, I work with students, I help support students in their academic load who struggle. My students had so many panic attacks due to not being able to breathe because there was a mask restricting their breathing ability. I can't tell you how many times we ran out of the school building so we could be outside and take those masks off, and we had to start doing breathing techniques so that they could catch their breath, lower their heart rate, and then be able to enter back into a schoolroom setting to try to start learning again. But it absolutely impeded their education. I had students, by the time January rolled around, some of them had been contact traced and had to quarantine for 6 weeks. They were failing all 6 of the courses that they were taking at a high school level. I had special meetings trying to figure out with our principal, our head of school, parents, how are we going to get these kids back on track? How can we get them to learn what they need to learn before graduation? It's impossible. I was never contact traced, praise the Lord. I never had to quarantine, praise the Lord, but I worked with students, all of which at one point or another had to be quarantined because of contact tracing. At the end of the school year, allergy season kicked in, and my allergies went berserk on me. I ended up contracting pneumonia. It was bacterial pneumonia caused from the excessive excretions from my body into my mask. I, through research, and this is just one volume, I encourage all of you, search the website, CDC, everything. Please do your homework and your research, but thank you so much for your time. Please think about the children. Think about the educators. We are talking about the future of Lenawee County. They're not learning anything with masks and quarantine.
Next in the 6th row.
Can you all hear me okay? No, please use the mic. I'm not a teacher, so.
So I've got 45 minutes of notes, but I'm going to skip some of the stuff y'all know. Thank you for this opportunity. I know, like has been said, I don't know your position. Every death is sad, and I don't think any of us want to obfuscate that if someone comes down with any disease and suffers badly, their family suffers. We get that. We want to mitigate that as much as we can. I don't want to throw a ton of numbers at you, but there's a couple of studies that that y'all can do for yourself that I think are pretty impactful. One, just a point of reference of Sweden versus the U.S. Sweden has had no lockdowns. Sweden has had no restrictions or mandates of any type. They've had an infection rate of 11.1% of their population, and not counting comorbidities, they've had a 0.02% rate of death. Counting comorbidities, they've had 0.14% of their population die from COVID. The U.S.'s numbers are 12.1% as of today, reported cases, and 0.2% deaths. So why then would a lockdown, mask up country have higher rates of infection and death? There was a study done in December of 2020 that evaluated half of last year and calculated the difference in case reports per day from states that had mandates and states that did not have mandates. The no mask mandate states reported 17 cases per 1,000 people per day. The mask mandated states reported 27 cases per 100,000 people per day. This was also broken down and accounted for population density. Any of these studies, by the way, I do have them cited and I'd be happy to send you links if you would like them. So MCL, the Michigan Compiled Laws, section 333.2433, titled Local Health Department Powers and Duties, reads as follows. This is section 2B. A local health department shall utilize vital and health statistics to provide for epidemiological and other research studies for the purpose of protecting public health. I submit that any attempted implementation of mandates of any type are in violation of this code. You simply cannot empirically demonstrate that a mask mandate curtails any virus spread or reduces rates of death. We can see, however, there is plenty of research and studies that the psychological, social, and developmental damages are incredible. If you willfully disregard the evidence of the harms of your policies, you have disregarded your duty. To risk the health, welfare, and education of my child, especially when peer-reviewed, widely available studies destroying the mask mandate narrative are ignored, is simply not acceptable. It is not appropriate to say that you cannot prove masks don't work, or an appropriate response. It is never the responsibility to prove a negative in science. The onus is on you to prove the efficacy, and the experts and studies I've quoted in 45 minutes more that you can have if you want to, prove that that cannot be done. Lastly, I'll say, 1984 was meant to be a warning, not an instruction manual.
Anybody else in row number 6?
I was not intending to speak today. I was asked by my husband to be nice because Martha Hall knows him very well. And we know you. My husband worked for the Lenawee County Health Department for 18 plus years.
What was your name again?
Terry Braun.
Terry Braun, thank you.
Greg Braun is my husband.
Thank you.
He was hired in before Martha for the Lenawee County Health Department. She was short after. They worked many years together. He decided to take leave and now works for the state. We do not believe in masks. We have seen what it has done to our daughter. We homeschool our kids, except for our oldest daughter goes part-time to a school in Lenawee County. She came home crying with a lot of psychological. She was sicker than the rest of the kids, and we went to a co-op where there were no masks, no social distancing from September to the end of April. No COVID problems. Kids were allowed to be kids, and that's all I ask. If you want to wear a mask, by all means, go ahead and wear a mask. If you want to be vaccinated, go ahead and be vaccinated. We choose for our family to eat healthy, to walk. Martha, you and Greg went on so many walks You introduced us to Dr. Israel, who's a homeopathic doctor. We loved him, now he's retired. What happened to that? Now it's throw a mask on, social distance, isolate? That's what people in prisons all over the world do to torture their prisoners, is put them in isolation. I mean, that's what we're doing to our kids. Martha, I umped behind your granddaughter. I wasn't that far away from her. I could have spit on her every time I said strike or ball. You saw how well your granddaughter played. If you keep doing this, they can't play. They can't have normal lives. We all got COVID and survived. And Greg's got high blood pressure and now diabetes. And he had, out of all of us, I had the worst. I still jogged through it. What we really should be concerned about is our water systems. PFAS around, why don't you tell all those people that have thyroid cancer due to PFAS? Why don't you tell all those people that are having blood tests run and having water samples done for PFAS? It just hurts me to see these kids.
Time.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, here we go.
This is hard for a germaphobe, seriously. Yeah, let's check the graphs, let's check the data. Every single time masks have been mandated, what do you see? A surge in cases. What does it prove? The masks don't work. Viruses can go in the sides, down the top, we don't wear them correctly, we cross-contaminate. Think about, as an adult, what you're doing to your mask. I watched y'all fiddle. Yeah, fiddling, aren't you? There you go. What do you think kids do? This is unfair to children. You talk about CDC data. Just came out, 72 million children in America, 1,790 who were hospitalized. 8 died in a 12-month period. Death at any time is sad. It's natural. It's going to happen. I'm sorry if somebody that you know died of a virus, but it happened. Somebody you know died of cancer. Somebody you know died of old age, a car accident, drowning. Things happen. It's sad, and I understand, but you have to stop doing this for the children. And you can continue, because honestly, you met with the superintendents. We know you will continue, and that's okay. You can continue. But we do not consent. As parents, we're done. It is over. We are done with the farce that is this government controls us. We the people control the government, and we do not consent any longer. Do not send your kids to school in a mask, no matter what mandate comes out today. It's over. And for your administrations here, the superintendents, the principals, how dare you? This is your job to protect these students. You have spent years in the education system trying to do the best things for the students. Do you try to protect them mentally, educationally, physically? Where is that now? What have you decided to do to these kids? Bend over to the same legal entity that controls you all. Have any of you gotten a second opinion from another lawyer? I don't think so. You're all using the same one. And you all are so scared of this funding that you're not going to lose. Contact Lana Tice. She's more than happy to talk to all of you. Contact a different lawyer. It's time that this is over. Parents, you are the only ones who can stop this. we say no more. It has to be over, and it will only be over when you say enough. Non-compliance is the only way. Now they're not going to stop. I know you think you have a job to do, and I know you think you're protecting people. You can do it. You can think that you are protecting people, you are not, and we have a responsibility and a right to protect our own children and our own families, and we will do it. We do not consent, and it's over. No more compliance. No more masks for these children.
Row number 6, are we still on row number 6?
My name is Becky Teague, and I'm from Blissfield, Michigan. I just want to say one thing. Sure. It's my body, my choice. That means the government can't tell me what to do or where.
Row number 6.
My name is Jack Griffiths, and I'm from Einstead, Michigan. I am a scientist that happens to know quite a lot about contamination control. I ran a contamination control lab for 16 years. I can tell you about PPE, how it's supposed to be used, how it's not. I've watched many of you cross-contaminate your mask while you've been up here. When you cross-contaminate your mask, you need to dispose of it. That doesn't happen. People put them, you see them. I've been in cars where there were 10 or 12 masks sitting on the dash, more sitting in the back seat. That's what's actually happening with masks. They're not being used properly, and they're not going to be effective when they're used that way. I have done thousands upon thousands of particle count tests on different filter media. Your mask is an unsealed breath filter. It cannot stop a virus particle that's 0.1 microns.
Right.
Can't do it. They did early on claim that it was due to respiratory droplets, and they have since revised that to what they've always said is true of viruses, and that it's aerosolized. So another little tidbit of information is that any particles that are less than 5 microns in size stay in the air because of air currents and so forth, sometimes almost indefinitely. They don't fall to the ground. The mask can't work. What do the industrial hygienists say that you should do? It isn't masking. It's increasing the airflow in the building, increasing the turns of fresh air. In the clean room in my lab, it turned more than 30 times in an hour in the room that was just your prep room. Turned more than 60 times an hour in the actual clean room. And you could still find particles in that HEPA filtered room, clean room. The science does not back up the bull crap that you're doing. Science does back up what many of these people have reported as anecdotal evidence, but which is also supported in actual studies. They've reported as anecdotal evidence as to what has been happening when their kids or their grandkids have been going to school with masks on. And they come home with a headache and so on. Of course they do. They're breathing in a whole lot more carbon dioxide than normal. Their blood oxygen level is going down.
Time.
You need to listen.
I'll give Jack 2 of my minutes.
Thank you. body does try very hard to keep your blood oxygen leveled up. That's why when you see all these goofy things where they put a mask on for a couple of minutes and they use a pulse oximeter, you don't see much drop. Okay, as the lab guy, I'm going to tell you how you really run that test. Try it. You have a carbon dioxide meter, Martha? Down there? Put that carbon dioxide meter underneath your mask. And then you take that mask off and run the reading from exactly the same distance away. And you see for yourself how much that kicks up the carbon dioxide intake that you're breathing in all the time. Don't do that to these kids.
Right.
That is unethical. That is unscientific. And it's also illegal. It's been cited why it's illegal from one standpoint, but another reason it's illegal is because you're mandating the use of a medical device. When you're saying that's for a medical reason, that's all of a sudden what happened. And those masks say right on the packaging that they don't stop viruses. Think about the liability there. When you're mandating something as a medical device, and yet it says right on it, it can't do the job that you're trying to make it do.
It specifies COVID even.
So let's stop with the nonsense, and let's use good common sense.
While he's doing that, young lady there, I wrote something down. You said 47,000 people have died as a result of.
Said one of the numbers that has come out is 47,000 people have died.
As a result of a vaccine.
No, that was as a result of the vaccine.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
That's documented.
Anybody else in row number 6? Row number 7? Oh, okay.
We all know that when you...
You are?
Oh, sorry,
From Manitoba Beach?
Yes.
Thank you.
We all know that when you breathe out, you breathe out carbon dioxide. So when you wear a mask and you breathe back in, all that carbon dioxide is just going back into your body, and it's not supposed to. It's waste. Why would you breathe it back in? So you really think it's healthy for you if you're breathing in all of that carbon dioxide that you just breathed out, and it's happening over and over. You're just taking in all this carbon dioxide, and you're never not taking any in until you take a mask off. So you really think it's good for you?
My voice is weak, so forgive me. My name is David Folks from Adrian. I am a pastor. So I lost my voice because I talk a lot. But the only thing that I care about is the truth. I don't care what the government says or these doctors versus these doctors or even my wife. What I care about is the truth. And the truth is that if you are elderly or obese or have asthma or all of those things, this is a deadly virus. If you are a child, it's a hiccup. The damage that is done for a child with a mask is much higher than COVID. That's just the truth. And what all of us should be searching for is just the truth. That's the only thing that counts.
We still on row number 6?
No, 7.
7, okay.
All right, my name's Dustin from Tecumseh. Have one daughter about to start school, another daughter on the way. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Not gonna sit here and say all the detrimental impacts that'll happen to our kids if we mask, because I don't think you really care. I think you care more about the detrimental impacts that'll happen to you guys if we're forced to mask. Because I don't think our kids are going to be going to school. If our kids aren't going to school, I'm not going to be paying my taxes. You're not going to be getting your salaries, your pensions, whatever else you think that you're entitled to. Thank you.
Holy, a deep thinker. Deep thoughts, deep thoughts.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Chandra Stang from Adrian. This year, we had a hard time deciding whether or not we would send our boys to public school, our choice being Blissfield Community School. I was taking on more commitments, and it seemed like that may be the best option. However, our hard decision became quite easy. The CDC has been coming out with more and more recommendations that will lead to more mandates. These mandates do not make common sense. They don't match up with the science and data. They look to seek control over our beloved democracy, infringes on our freedoms, and goes against my personal and religious beliefs. Thus, our decision was to homeschool another year. These mandates lack common sense to wash our hands and stay home when you're sick. Since when does the health department get to take on the role of parents? These mandates and recommendations put our government and health department in place of parents. The education system should be focusing on educating our children. Instead, history is being repeated in discriminating and segregating people. Children should be in school learning, but instead, many children are being quarantined. How are they getting a wholesome education? And how are children able to discern social cues based off facial expressions when half of people's faces are being covered with masks? If the school system really wants to mitigate risk for sickness of any kind, the focus needs to be on nutrition. Kids that eat school lunches are filled with sugar, preservatives, and junk. How is a child to focus and have a healthy immune system on such a diet? Cookies, candy, pop, sugary juices, prepackaged and preserved foods are staples in the school lunches. How can cheese-filled breadsticks and sauce satisfy as a healthy lunch? There shouldn't be unhealthy choices for our children at school. If the main concern was good health for the children and staff, proper hand washing and cleaning without the use of toxic, harmful chemicals, ample exercise, adequate fresh air, and sunshine should be a part of every school day. If health was the main focus, we need to let our children breathe how God intended, to be involved in a community like God had planned, and to see smiling faces. We are a free country, and our great state of Michigan has personal and religious exemptions that need to be respected. I do not consent to any mask and vaccine mandates. Thank you.
The little thing, that's it.
I'm Anthony Ronstadt. Are we still using the PCR test? Is that where our data's coming from? I know the one gentleman that asked. Are we still using the PCR test?
Yes.
So the one that we know is faulty, we're still using, right? Am I correct?
It was not determined to be faulty.
Is it not being replaced December 31st? Yes, it is. So all this data we've had from the last 18 months, in my opinion, means nothing when we know that test is faulty. I have a kid that's 5 years old, first year going to school all day. I will not send him to school with a mask on.
Amen.
So
Come to
if we want to go to science and believe the science, it's pretty easy to make my decision that you guys say the test isn't certified or doesn't work correctly. I'm not believing it.
Hi, Jody Schoonover. My children attend Sand Creek. I don't really want to talk, but I can't be silent anymore. I have, one of my daughters has to repeat part of a class from last semester because she failed it prior to last year. She was nearly a straight A student. I have two children that were very shy prior to starting school. They were just starting to come out of their shells, be a little more social. Pandemic hit, they're all the way back to square one. My kindergartner last year came home and I was going through some of her schoolwork and she had this drawing and I'm like, oh, I was trying to look at what it was. And I got closer and I'm like, why does it look so funny? She drew a picture of herself and she had a mask on. And I'm like, never again. My children will not attend school where they have to wear a mask. And I don't have all the science, I don't have all the data, and I really don't care. I will do what is best for my children. And I will stand up and I will not let you bully myself, the parents, the schools. The schools are taught not to let bullying happen in schools, but you yourselves bully the schools. And so I'm saying no more. And not just, you say you care about the health, what about the social well-being or the mental well-being of our children? Because it's not happening right now. Thank you for letting me speak.
Hi, my name's Jill. I'm in Tecumseh. I actually pulled my child because I didn't believe that you guys would let the schools do a mask chosen by the parents. Because as the CDC and everybody else, you guys are very wishy-washy. You guys can't decide what you think in one day and think it the other day. One thing I was looking at was the statistics for Lenawee County learning. It's pretty low, drastically low. So 42% of our third graders are proficient in reading. Do you think the masks might be affecting that? It was 45 the year before. 29% of our sixth graders are in age-appropriate math. I think you guys need to be focusing more on the education department and let the parents handle the health part. You guys are lacking. So when an institution can't handle the task at hand, what makes you think you can take on a whole other part? It's not working. Why isn't anybody talking about the suicides? Is that part of the kids that are getting sick? There's a 50% increase in the number of suicides between 12 to 17. And they aren't doing it because they're scared of COVID. the amount of antidepressants that our elementary students have gone on last year, you guys should take a look at that. You know what that also leads to? Is a side effect of suicide. For a virus that children rarely catch, your own information gives that. The post that you made on Monday, in it states that children rarely transmit the virus or have symptoms. The psychological effects of these children will be on your shoulders. I hope that some of this $4 million that each school got is going towards the fact that these children are mentally distraught. You're teaching them that the air they're breathing can kill someone. There's kids having anxiety attacks. I don't know if any of you have had a hard time during this pandemic. Imagine a child hearing it day after day after day after day. You could kill your grandma. You're going to kill your grandma. Don't be around people. You could die. Kids are isolating themselves even when don't even have to, because they want to be able to play their sport, so they're sitting away from everybody. They're sitting away from everybody in the classroom. And then they still test positive because the tests are faulty. They have no way of telling that. How many times do you cycle them? Do you up that and down that depending on how much you want the numbers to increase?
Yes, they do.
So let's cycle it a few more times. You know what that means? You're magnifying it. You know what the maker said? You can magnify it enough and find anything.
Time.
So depending on what you want those numbers to be, that's what you're going with.
My name is Amber Kapnick. I'm from Manitow Beach. I'm not only a mom, but I also work for the Lenawee Intermediate School District. So I get to see the full gamut. I'm not here as a scientist, virologist, or an epidemiologist, so I won't throw studies or data at you. I am, however, a mom with gut instinct, intuition, and many concerns about what's going on. So I will share with you the things that have made no logical sense. Flip-flopping recommendations. No mask, 1 mask, 2 masks? What is it? Masks only on the bus? Nowhere else in the school? What? Are you kidding me? Temperature taking. I know maybe some of the schools aren't doing that this year, but holy smokes. So we only need our temperature taken in places like a medical facility and schools. A temperature does not equal COVID. Never has. I can have COVID and have no temperature. I can have a temperature and not have COVID. So what was ever the sense in taking temperatures? And also, there are many statements and studies that speak to the inaccuracy of the infrared thermometers that are being used on our kids daily. Suppression of information from doctors who are threatened with having their licenses taken away. Not long ago, I listened to a director of a local healthcare facility here in Lenawee County. He was afraid to speak out. What a shame. It was so disturbing to listen to him say the things that countless of doctors have been saying. He reported to me, death certificates are on the verge of fraudulent. Shameful. Hydroxychloroquine is being treated as an opioid in regards to its monitoring. If he prescribes hydroxychloroquine, he's monitored. Are you kidding me? VAERS. He had to report a vaccine injury. He's a licensed physician. Took him days to complete the information on VAERS. Again, shameful. No wonder doctors aren't reporting deaths. The micron of the virus from him, much smaller than the mask. Quote, I quote him, "This is like throwing sand at a chain link fence and thinking no sand will get through." Quarantine. Why are we quarantining healthy people? Again, doesn't make sense. Can you remember a time when healthy people have been asked to quarantine? This again is interesting to me. I called Todd, our lovely epidemiologist from the health department. He had no answers for me. However, I have a really good question for him. I said, how many kids countywide have come down with symptoms or tested positive after being identified as a close contact? His response, and I quote Todd, "We don't have time to collect that data." I wish I had tape recorded his phone conversation because I would have plastered it all over social media. So, What are we basing quarantine on then? If you're not tracking that information, ridiculous. One last thing that makes no sense, vaccine incentives. We should not be incentivized to take something that is supposedly good for us. A vaccine does not equal immunity. Have you ever heard of a titer test, Martha Hall? I've had many conversations with you about this in the past. The only way to prove immunity is to have a titer test. So have any of you ever had a titer test to know that your vaccines are proving immunity for you? Anyone? Anyone in the audience ever had a titer test?
Time.
Time is out.
Oh, so you've been vaccinated probably as a child and you have no clue if those vaccines are effective or not. Do your research.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is. What are you gonna do?
We still on row number 7? Row number 8?
Woo, moving on up.
Hello, my name is Lindsay, and I live in Lenawee County. I live in Blissfield. I work in 3 of the local school districts currently and last year, so I have a lot of first-time experience with how it's worked in the schools. The quarantining is just ridiculous. Every class that's been quarantined that I know of in the 3 districts that I have worked in, not one student or teacher, of course they're wearing masks at the time, not one student or teacher could not return to school when the quarantine was done. All of them came back. No symptoms of COVID. You just wasted a week or 2 weeks of that kid's education, because I can tell you that especially the special education students that I work with, they're not getting what they need when it's online. It's really, really sad. And then I can speak to this year, there's already obviously classes that are quarantined, and I like data. I work in the medical field within the school district. Give me the data. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to call every single family of each student that has not been wearing a mask this year, and those that are quarantined, and ask them, does your child have any symptoms? And if the answer is no, then why are we quarantining these kids? Today, one of the classrooms got told that they had a close contact, but it was like a week ago, so they have to be quarantined for a day and a half. So those students their parents had to pick them up today, sometime, if they picked them up, and some of them didn't, some of them left them at school all day. They have to be gone from school tomorrow, and then they get to come back Friday. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if we're worried about exposure, they've already exposed whoever they're going to expose, and the next day and a half taking them out of school, it's not very logical. In regards to masks, I'm not going to debate if they're beneficial or not, because it really doesn't matter, because in the end, it should be my choice to mask my child. She's in kindergarten, she goes to Blissfield. I'll show you a picture of her, because she's just the best. This is her at school today, in the cafeteria. She goes to Blissfield. She's in the same grade as Drew. She's the best. She doesn't deserve a mask. She doesn't need a mask. It's my choice. I'm her parent. You guys are the health department. You should be saying, eat healthy foods. Take vitamins to support your immune system. Get out and exercise. You need to stay in your lane as a health department and make recommendations so I can stay in my lane as a parent and take care of my child. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan Wells, and I'm a resident of Blissfield. I'm a special educator in the county, and a mother of 3. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to me today. I'm coming here to talk about, I heard you guys mention exemptions and medical exemptions before the meeting, or kind of before the public speaking starts happening. And I'm here to tell you something that I never thought I'd be sharing, like I didn't share with my close friends, let alone publicly. But I'm a victim of sexual assault by a family member. And it's something I've had to live with since my senior year in college. And last summer, when masks were mandated everywhere, I tried to limit going to indoor spaces. And but obviously as a parent, you have to go into stores at some point in time. I noticed myself developing more and more anxiety, as having a mask on my face reminds me of having my attacker's hands on my mouth, and reliving that experience and that nightmare over and over again. Going into stores turned into full-on panic attacks. I had them in public stores, humiliating. I had to go back to a mental health professional again and talk to my healthcare provider. After having several conversations with doctors, I was able to get an exemption to wear a face shield. The face shield wasn't much better because being different is hard. And out of natural curiosity, especially working in schools, kids ask, like, why are you wearing that? So again, you're forced to rethink and relive all of that nightmare all over again. I also had people question my intent and if I had a no, and my administrators challenged, they didn't challenge me on it, but me and my work challenged me on it. That was embarrassing because the person, I believe, was watching me through the cameras. It wasn't somebody I worked with directly. So as a victim of sexual assault, I feel like somebody's watching me at all times. It was awful. It was a nightmare. And as a health department, I'm sure you are aware of the number of reported sexual assault cases that children have, teens have, and that just reported, the unreported numbers, who knows? And I feel like as an educated and supportive person, I need to help all those people because it took a lot for me to get that exemption. And I need to speak out on their behalf because the person who should take them to the medical professional to get that note is probably the person, maybe the person who assaulted them. And I want to remind you that mental health is just as important as physical health. Mental health and masking is a psychological stressor for children, disrupts learning. Covering the lower half of your face for both a teacher and a student reduces communication. Children lose experience of enjoying expressions. Such an important tool for nonverbal communication. Positive emotions are less recognizable, and negative emotions can be amplified. The bonding between teachers and students take a hit, and masking increases the chances of anxiety and depression. And I just wanted to speak out on behalf of those who are struggling like myself. Please keep masks optional. Thank you.
I don't live in the Fourth Reich. You guys might work there, but it's not going to happen.
What an incredibly stupid statement.
Anybody else want to speak?
It's an incredibly stupid statement saying that suicides don't happen in children.
They didn't go up during the COVID
That's
crisis.
an incredibly stupid statement. I heard you muffle.
I said they didn't go up. They didn't increase during COVID.
I just had
They didn't increase during COVID. There was one videotape.
Mr. Swift has been out of line multiple times.
She's the one yelling at me.
Because he's talking about
needs to
children
be
committing
removed.
suicide didn't happen during COVID, and that is bullshit. There's been videotapings of a child that committed suicide on video in front of his class.
Needs to be removed.
I didn't say anything. Why, they're yelling at me.
About children not
You guys
committing
got
suicide,
threatened
and you just
and you yelled at
admitted it. Get your ass out if you don't care about children.
Stop. He needs to leave.
If he doesn't even have children, to sit there and say suicide is not a joke.
Okay, we are going to we're going to continue this public comment. Bill, if you make one more comment.
One more?
Get him
You've
out.
had enough. Suicide in children is not enough.
No, I'm not.
A suicide in children is not enough.
How many strikes does he get? In baseball, you get 3.
This is
it.
it.
Get
him out of here. He just called the woman who was up there the last stupid as she walked by.
They did not. I did not.
No more?
I did not.
No.
I don't want to hear any more comments.
And I'm valedictorian of my
Okay.
graduating class. I got a lot to tell you. Why don't you ask me some questions?
He
I'll inform
mutters
you.
under his face diaper, and you don't see it, but we hear it.
Get him out of here. It's all.
Anybody else? Where are we at?
Get the hell out of
We're late.
We're almost done. Just get him out before something
It was the
escalates.
best one I've heard.
This gentleman is up first.
To our physical bodies.
I had another parent ask about natural immunity versus vaccination. Do you know how we're treating the two as it relates to like close contact? If someone's had COVID, recovered, and they have natural antibodies, is that going to factor in?
So someone who's identified as a close contact that has had COVID within the last 90 days, so a confirmed case in the last 90 days, is not required.
What did she say?
Oh.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Relay that.
Relay. She said, do you want to? I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. someone who has had COVID within the last 90 days, so they have a confirmed COVID case in the last 90 days, is not required to quarantine, as long as they're asymptomatic.
Where's the proof that you keep getting it?
What about T-cell memory?
What if the antibody test is still really high, even if they had it more than 3 months ago? How about that?
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to basically say the bottom line for me in all of this is a cost-benefit analysis. So every day we assume risk. It's part of our freedom to assume risk in our daily life. You know, anything from driving a car, eating fast food, smoking, drinking, we all assume risk. So should we teach our children to live in fear? Should we strip them of their ability to grow and develop as we were afforded when we were young? We need to stop making policy decisions based on what we don't know fully and what we don't understand. The science is evolving, and so too should our ability to reason. Focus on what we do know, and what we do know is the parents all out here, we see what this is doing to our kids every day. So we know what the risk is to them. I don't know about any of you, but if I had never heard of COVID, I wouldn't have thought we're in a pandemic right now. I see cancer, I see heart disease, and we're giving out incentives to get vaccinated, you know, in the form of fast food, and it doesn't make any sense. So, I think we should just stop justifying our decisions based on what we don't know and start standing up for our kids and the impact that it's having on them. Thank you.
My name is Garrett Skolton. My kids go to Clinton. We've heard a lot tonight about listening to the experts at the CDC. I recall in the beginning when Fauci told us all not to wear masks because they don't work, but that lie was just to keep us from buying too many, so that was okay. The CDC recently released a warning statement on the use of ivermectin, despite the fact that it won a Nobel Prize in 2015 for its use in humans, despite the fact that it's annually prescribed about 100,000 individuals every year take ivermectin quite safely, and it's shown many positive results. Anyone ever receive a medical device that was then recalled and had to be removed from their body? Anyone ever take medicine that was later recalled? Anyone ever have a surgeon begin to operate on the wrong leg? Okay, that one's probably just me. We constantly are told to listen to the experts because they are the ones who know. And yet these experts gave the guy who came up with the lobotomy a Nobel Prize, and it was the standard practice of care for decades. The experts can and are quite frequently wrong. Sheep blindly follow what they are told. Lions will analyze the data and do what is best for their families. Thank you.
Marnie Davies, Adrian resident, son that's a senior at Adrian High School. I didn't plan to speak like many others here today, but I applaud all of you that did get up and speak, because there's one thing this pandemic has done, is it's taught us that we all have a voice. So we need to use them. I would like to thank all of you sitting around here listening tonight, but I want to speak directly to Martha, because it's my understanding that Martha gets to make this decision. Yes, maybe with some input from you, but really she has the final say. I have got up at Adrian Public Schools board meetings for the last year and a half, and my husband and I have been the only two in the audience many times, and challenged them to think outside the box and think differently, and ask them for local control. In fact, we were the ones that asked them to write a resolution to the governor in the state of Michigan for our school districts in Lenawee County to have local control. And thank you to Stacy Johnson from Brenton Deerfield for pushing that through and working with our superintendents to get that done. Now, what I would like to ask is that you leave that local control to each of our school districts, Martha, and go with that letter that they sent us all in the beginning of the year that said it is choice. They highly encouraged it, but they allowed us to have choice. I'm also here tonight for the several Adrian Public Schools employees who do not feel that they can come here and stand up themselves. They fear retaliation if they don't follow the rules. And yes, there is a great divide. It's probably 50-50 on who will wear a mask and who won't. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. But leave the parenting of our children to us. And please, leave this mask mandate to local control of these districts. Thank you.
My name's Anthony Cremines. My kids go to Sand Creek and I live in Adrian. I'd just like to say first off, this meeting is a complete joke. We had a meeting about COVID restrictions and you got everybody crammed into this room. Those two haven't even had their mask on half the time. I mean, what are we doing? It's at 4 o'clock. It's hard to get here. I had to leave work early. I don't appreciate that. It should be later in the evening. But I know you guys don't like working late because you're government employees. But first off, I'd like to say, you know, no one's said it yet, but as of COVID starting, and I looked up the numbers as of August 4th, kids 0 to 17, 349 have died in the last 18 months. You didn't talk about deaths, you just talked about cases. The goalpost got moved to cases, not deaths. And then, you know, just to put this in perspective, 2019, 612 children under the age of 13 died in car accidents. 434 in 2019. I think it's done.
Talk loud.
All right, 434 children died of the flu. Don't remember any crazy restrictions then. I mean, this is not anywhere near as deadly as the flu to children. In a little further perspective, 1,600 people a year win more than $1 million in the lottery in the United States. So you got almost a 5 times greater chance of winning $1 million in the lottery or more than your children dying from COVID. This is a scandemic, and it has been from day one. And then our governor, she is just a horrible human being. She, Gretchen Whitmer, kept abortion clinics, marijuana shops, and liquor stores open while saying schools are not essential, other businesses are not essential. Then 354,871 kids died of abortion in 2019. Are you doing anything about that? Have you done anything about that at all? That's a lot more. 1,000 times more. This is absolutely insane that we even have to come here and discuss this. Masks don't work. I got studies, but everybody already went over them. It's a waste of time. You know, and I went to the Sand Creek School Board about a month ago, and it may surprise you, but they're competent people. They're more than capable of running that school between the parents, the school board, and the administration without you. They don't need you. You don't bring anything to the discussion. You're a worthless government employee. Like so many The World Health Organization said today that COVID-19 will continue to mutate to various forms and will likely be here to stay. So we're going to do this forever? We're going to have to come down here every year and do this? It's absolutely ridiculous. I guess you're the one that makes the decision, not any of these people, so I'll look at you the whole time. We can destroy ourselves socially and economically. We can just continue to ruin this country over a virus that's going to be here regardless. Everything we've done has been for nothing. The virus still spread. People are still going to die. It's sad. It's part of life.
Time.
Life requires risk. It's a 99.8 survival.
Yeah.
You have a 99.8% across all age groups. Absolutely ridiculous that we even have to be here.
John Fryer would like to say something right now, so if you...
Yes, if you can't hear me, it's because I've never been on the Croswell stage speaking to an audience of this size. Anyhow, I want to clear up something. We are not employees of the government. We are citizens like you who have accepted the responsibility to be on the Board of Health and make recommendations to Martha. So please don't think we're getting paid a whopping $40 for this meeting. And we thank you for coming, but don't think that we are government employees. We're citizens like you, and we truly value the input from both sides that we are getting tonight. Thank you for coming.
This is the majority then.
I'm Carol Rebatero, and I...
It might be a button got pushed or something.
It's a battery's dead. So, yeah, it's dead battery. I'm a respiratory therapist, and I have dealt with this since the beginning of the pandemic. And let's be honest, we're all here right now. I wasn't planning on coming up and speaking. We're all here because we're passionate about our kids. We all want to do what's right for our own child. I have friends that are vaccinated, unvaccinated. Wear masks, don't wear masks. I think in the end, we need to try and find a way to all come together and help everybody feel safe. I have friends who are terrified to send their kids to school because they're afraid of their kid who is immunocompromised catching it from somebody else who isn't masked. Words don't work. If you do a study, if you're wearing a mask and the other person is wearing a mask, there is less going through those masks. And I do. I have 2 kids, one in high school currently and one in college. I also allowed both my children to choose if they wanted the vaccine. They both chose the vaccine. I did not push them one way or the other. That was their choice. Like I said, I have friends, both ends. What I think is if we can try and find a way, I don't have a solution. But I know there's people who can't wear their masks at school. I know that. There's also people who, if their children don't have masks on or are exposed to it, are going to have a harder time. I can say, from working as a respiratory therapist this whole time, this Delta variant is affecting children more. We know it's going to spread. The majority of them, yes, will get a mild form. I understand that. I think we all understand that. Am I right? Okay. Anybody have any suggestions to everybody up here? Any other things that could help so both the mask and unmasked can come together a little easier? Choice. So I have a question. I do have another question. Do you have a solution aside from those?
4 million.
Aside from those who want to stay unmasked, is there a way that we can find? I don't want to segregate, but right now in a pandemic, is there a way to do some masked classrooms and some unmasked classrooms? I don't know the right answer. But I can tell you, I have friends in other states, kids are getting really hit. Please take care of your kids. I know everybody, that's what our passion is here. That's why we're all here. This has affected all of us. I can tell you that 99% of the healthcare workers right now, myself included, have PTSD from this. I don't want to see any single one of you or your kids in the hospital. I have held way too many hands as they've died, as they've been intubated. I know some think it's fake still, and that's okay. But I'm just saying, please keep yourself safe and your kids safe. And please, think if there's something that we can help them. Some way to provide them.
Time.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm setting my timer so I can watch to see what the time is, so don't worry about it. My name is Dina Van Ice. I'm a resident of Lenawee County. My daughter attends school in Lenawee County. I'm also a taxpayer in Lenawee County. I'm not a science denier. I enjoy learning about the world around us by observation, asking questions, experimenting, and formulating hypotheses. I am not a parent for science. I am a parent who questions, then comprehends the science as needed. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. My mother was a registered nurse. All 5 of her children had vaccines, especially the polio vaccine. She was born in 1928 and severely affected by polio. My daughter had her vaccines until a horrific allergic reaction to the MMR caused severe scratching, itching, which her body did not shed until she was nearly 11 years old. She was covered in Band-Aids from head to toe, 24/7, bloody sheets, every night. Still has the scars at the age of 16 to prove it. Not one member of my family will be vaccinated. I am not an anti-masker either. I support the use of masks in surgical rooms, at Fermi, and in places where protection is needed from spills and splashes. But I do not believe in masking. I do not believe in masking children, students, or adults, which causes low blood oxygen levels, carbon dioxide, which can cause dizziness, nausea, other conditions similar to suffocating. Due to masking last year, my 16-year-old daughter missed a lot of school. She was very sick. The mask caused her to be dizzy, nauseated. We had hospitalizations. I have bills out the kazoo because of all this junk that she had to go through because of masking in her school. I am a COVID survivor. My husband, who has comorbidities, that I won't even list here because it'd freak you out, is a COVID survivor. My daughter is a COVID survivor. You want to know something? She had COVID twice. Let me tell you how that happened. We wore a mask, we social distanced, we washed our hands, but we still were infected with the CCP virus. We did not live in fear. We have natural immunity, and the CCP virus is 99.9% survivable. We are proof. How did she have it twice? Because she had it a year apart. The second year she had it, she had barely any symptoms because the T cells took effect. The immunity, her natural immunity kicked in. 2 or 3 days, no cough, no fever, nothing. She went back to school. Oh no, she couldn't go back to school. You know why? Because mom and dad were tested and she wasn't. The Board of Health called me. Ding, ding, ding. You have COVID. Called my husband. You have COVID. We did all the quarantining. She did the quarantining for 30 days. Guess what happened? A week later, she goes back to school. Then she gets quarantined again for close contact. She just came out of COVID. All right, here's an idea. Take the money you're getting from the schools, take the money you're getting from the health department and so forth. Put it into kids. I know my time's up. Put it into the kids who need tutoring because their education has been screwed up. Put it in areas that can help our children. Do what's right. Do what's right for our children. Not what's right for the government and not what's right for Lansing.
Kimberly Blackman. I have 3 students that go to Lenawee County Schools.
Microphone.
I'll be loud. I'm pretty sure.
I
go to
the.
You can't hear me? Oh, sorry. I'll yell. All right, sorry, but I'm going to face the people in the room who actually have the power, and I'm going to talk to them. Because I don't honestly think that any of these people behind me, except maybe him, actually care. From what I've heard, they've already made the decision anyway earlier. And this meeting is merely a formality just to get us all out here to gripe, and then they're going to go on about their day. So how many of you in this room were polled by your school as a teacher or as just a citizen or a parent on whether you wanted to be forced or have choice in school for masks? That's a lot of hands. Me either. They never asked me. What happened to majority? Like, nobody ever even asked. And most schools in Lenawee County didn't even ask their teachers how they felt. That to me says a lot, because your teachers' opinions and how they feel when they're working with you every day really should matter. And so many teachers went unheard in this. I know several really good ones that did. You know why they didn't ask, though? Because they know that the majority would say that we want choice. And they don't want to face that fact. That probably 80% of each school, if they asked us, would say we want the choice. So they don't want to have to face that. Yeah, so it's only convenient. Majority rules is only convenient. You'll have to excuse me, I wrote this in the back of the room. I'm usually pretty prepared, but I was not because of a week I had. But by the way, what happened to exemptions? That's my second question. This is still Michigan, right? We have religious, medical, all those exemptions. Yeah, but you should know that the superintendents blame you guys as to why our exemptions weren't taken. My own superintendent at my children's school told me the health department won't let me take exemptions from a homeopath or a chiropractor because they're not real doctors. That's what the supers are blaming the health department. I don't know if you guys know that, but I actually have an email to prove that if you need it. They said the health department won't accept them because they're not real doctors. What about the religious exemptions? There's schools in Michigan who are accepting them, but none in Lenawee County. Why? Because they're scared of you. Let's see. Oh, waivers. There's schools in Michigan who are accepting waivers. Have any of you ever been offered a waiver to sign at your kid's school? I'll sign one. Well, most of you. I don't care. As long as my kid can go to school with no mask on, I'll sign the waiver. Offer us that. But no, they're not giving us any options. I know my time's almost up. But I want to tell you that in my profession as a mental health specialist in an elementary and a middle school makes what I have to say important. And of my 25 kid caseload, when I pull them out for private sessions, I always check on their mental health first with questions like, what are you most worried about right now? And 20 of the 25 this week said that masks will come back. Let that sink in. That's 20. My kids are all elementary and middle school. That is not what they should be worried about. They should be worried about what was packed in their lunch and dumb stuff, not if masks have to come back. In closing, this is the last thing I promise. But it's funny that you brought up the Croswell, and I'm just doing this for my benefit. please spread the word that the Croswell's mandating that you show your vaccine cards to audition. So instead of defunding the police, let's defund the Croswell.
I'd love to hear your opinion, young woman.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in front of you.
No, you got scared.
My name's Ben. Location, school is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. I work with our high school football team. I film. I'm with the kids quite often. And last week, everything got upended. And to see our players on social media absolutely distraught because of your guys' decisions that's going on in the spotty close contact quarantine, it's asinine. The stuff has to stop. It has to stop. I mean, just to throw some numbers at you, from America's HealthRankings.org, 6,200 suicide deaths in 2020 from kids the age of 15 to 24. Now, I know that doesn't cover all school-age kids, but that's an appalling number. And for you guys to just blow that off like that don't matter is ridiculous. I lost a cousin in 2014 from suicide. And for you to have offhanded comments, try that again. Try it. Our youth are 17 times more likely to die from suicide than they are from COVID. 17 times. And you're taking them out of schools. You're taking them away from social interaction. School counselors, friends, people they need, people they console in. And you guys are just ripping that away. It has to stop. You have to give the choice to the schools, the districts, not you. You give out the recommendations. That's it. The line is drawn in the sand there, and it needs to stop. The CDC says more than 46,000 hospitalized for flu in 2018 to 2019. That's kids 5 to 17. Hospitalization rate 39.2 per 100,000. COVID-19 hospitalization rate 6 per 100,000. Don't shoot the messenger. That came from the CDC. 2018 to 2019, the flu, 480 flu deaths, ages 0 to 17. It trumps the COVID deaths. What did we do about the flu? We did nothing. We let the flu run its course. That's what needs to happen here. The more you mask kids and the more you get them out, and you say, okay, well, you got to go home for 2 weeks, and then come back, and they come back to it again, it's just going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. You're prolonging it. You have to let it run its course. It's not going to go anywhere. It's been proven time and time and time again. It's not going to go anywhere.
Time.
And I tell the kids on the football team that I will go to war with them, and I mean that in a football field, and I mean it in life too. And I'm not going anywhere. Yep.
Hello, my name is Carrie, and I have 4 children in the Sand Creek School District. I guess my basis for being here tonight is to say I'm an American, I'm a taxpayer, my kids are free. They're free here in our country. They need to be in school, they need to get their education, and they need to be left alone. Please leave them alone. Stop with the masks. They've had enough. We've all had enough. We will not consent to this constantly. It is done.
No.
I'll try and talk loud. I don't know, this is unfortunate this isn't working anymore. So I guess you're the
am shocked, I'm Emily from Lenawee County. I am shocked that you guys are the ones making these decisions for my children. And you can't even answer their basic questions. Like, questions that you guys should know, like, off the bat, because you've been doing this, right? Can't even answer those. You have all been doing the bidding of the governor for over a year now. She was struck down in the Supreme Court. Her powers restrict, so she has called upon all of you to fulfill her tyrannical agenda. We, the parents, will not put up with it. Done. My kids will not wear a mask, but I will also not be pulling them from school. They have the right to be in public school. It is their constitutional right to go to public school. You will not take that away from them. And I see many educators, some from my own school here, and I'm here to tell you that my kids will not wear a mask, but they will not be pulled out of school. They will be there every single day that that school is open. It is absolutely not any of your guys' job to tell me or anybody else here what to put into our bodies. Zero.
And I go to St. Crete schools. Last year, I got quarantined more than 8 times, and I missed out on my first year of track. When I got back to school, I had to sit there listening to all of my friends talk about how the track meet went and telling me what they ran and where they placed. Quarantining has ruined me. It has kept me from my friends and made me think I was alone. I am not going to follow with masks and vaccines. I will make my own choices, and I won't let anyone tell me any different. I want to see people smile.
Excuse me a minute. Just a minute. The young lady in the pink dress really wants to come up here and say something. Please do. That's all right. Go ahead. Okay, next. You can speak to us afterwards if you'd like.
I'm Madison. I go to St. Crete High School. Yesterday I sat in class and heard my teacher say if you get vaccinated, you'll be able to see your friends again. If any of you wear a mask, you'll be safer. I should not be told when I get to see my friends. These quarantines are ruining kids. It's my right to go to school. It's my right to get a proper education. And it's my choice to wear a mask or not the government's.
So, I have less to say to them and more to say to you. Tyranny comes in many forms. Tyranny will come in the name...
Excuse me, who are you?
My name is Scott Cremines.
Scott, thank you.
No problem. Tyranny comes in the name of safety and security. Teach your children. Teach your neighbor. This is what tyranny looks like. We are the last line of defense for everything. The people are the last line of defense for everything. Once they defeat us, it's all theirs. You are not going to take anything from us. We own this building. We pay your salaries. We own this state. We own this nation. We own every public building. We own the Capitol building. We own the United States Capitol building. We own everything. We run the ship. You don't run the ship. And the orders you're getting under the radar from Lansing, They don't run the ship either. We do. No masks. My grandson is not going to wear a mask to school, no matter what. And there's nothing you're going to do about it, period. Because I will go there every day, and I will defend him. Do not send your kids to school with masks. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
All right, who's next? Anybody want to speak? We're running late. So if you can. This gentleman is coming first. You can be next.
I saved a picture from Facebook before I deleted it when it started censoring everything that's true. It's a post from the Lenawee County Health Department. It was last August. Said people should not wear masks when exercising, as masks may reduce the ability to breathe comfortably. Sweat can make the mask become more wet more quickly, which makes it difficult to breathe and promotes the growth of microorganisms. Thank you for making our case.
In the purple, excuse me, I'm colorblind.
Oh, yeah. The gentleman mentioned the word tyranny. I just want to give it, I looked that up really quick. I wasn't going to say anything, but I thought, we are here. Tyranny, cruel, obsessive government rule, people who survive war or escape tyranny. A nation under cruel and obsessive government. Cruel, reasonable, or arbitrary use of power or control. I just felt compelled. If you didn't know what tyranny was, that's where we're at.
I don't really know where to stand. I don't want my backside necessarily to anyone. My name is Elizabeth. I have children in the Blissfield Middle School and high school currently. I am also a registered nurse, and I've been working the entire time of the pandemic. I just had a few notes listening, you're welcome, to the different arguments. This is obviously a very passionate subject for multiple people. Everyone really should have a say, but it should be their say. Just a couple of things working through the pandemic. I know we've heard from another nurse and from a respiratory therapist, and I can appreciate the comments that are made. We all are tired. It is, I've made that phone call where I'm transferring their loved one to ICU because there's nothing else I can do, and the outlook isn't good. There are those phone calls I've made where they have passed from COVID-19. I've also made those phone calls to families and related to other conditions. I made the mistake one time of telling a family member that I thought their loved one was going to be okay. I was going to discharge them later that day. They went to a test, came back. They weren't hooked up on the monitor. I went to the room 7 minutes later, and they were already blue. I come with you, we talk about common sense. These masks of our children, they don't work. If they did, why as a nurse, when I am actively working with COVID patients, am I required to wear an N95? Because the masks on your face do not protect you from it. It is common sense. I understand we are all working towards a common goal. We all want to keep our loved ones safe. I myself have had family members pass away from COVID-19. This is not how we do it. Mandating the masks of our children is not how we do it. We talk about suicide, we talk about the emotional tolls it's taking on our children. I got a phone call last year saying that my son had a note on the back of his back. He had written it on a sticky note saying that he wanted to die. He had his head down on the desk. Why? Why? Because of the emotional strain of everything going on in the schools, a mask is just one more thing. If they worked, if they really worked, healthcare loves to save money. The things that I've had to do because we're trying to save money and we're trying this and we're trying that is a little ridiculous at times. If the masks on our faces right now that you guys are wearing worked, wouldn't the healthcare use them? Why would they willingly pay more money for N95s if the cheaper versions worked? Why do I have to gown up and wear an N95 in every patient's room that I have to go to if the mask on your face worked? They are cheaper, they are more readily accessible. Please, I implore you to really look at the situation. It's not effective and it is damaging our children. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? I think we got somebody coming.
The mask on your face works about as much as a star on your chest makes you less of a human.
My name is Amber, and I'm here because my kids go to school here in Lenawee County, and the masks are just, you know, I have one child who has anxiety and OCD, and it has done nothing but make it worse. He actually is willing to walk to school during the winter time because he doesn't want to put a mask on to get on the bus this year. He's had enough. And it's just, you know, my 4-year-old will be starting preschool soon, hopefully. He doesn't understand the fact that, you know, the mask mandates. He doesn't, it's not right. It should be a parent's choice, our choice, because what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. What might work for Britton Deerfield may not work for an Adrian school because they're bigger, and vice versa. So how can you treat everyone the same? Leave it up to the parents to choose. If the parents want to send their kids to school in a mask, then that's their choice. And if they don't, that's their choice. Leave it to the parents, please.
Is there anybody that would like to add something to the conversation?
Is there gonna be a conversation? Are you guys gonna talk tonight to us?
Good evening. I wasn't planning on speaking. My name's Scott. I'm from Adrian. My daughter, Ruby, my eldest daughter, started kindergarten this week. Or actually, I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago. And she's never worn a mask. We've never had her in a mask, and thank God she didn't have to wear a mask these last few weeks. We won't have her in a mask. The psychological effects from mask wearing, especially for developmentally, she's in kindergarten, she's 5 years old, so you can only imagine seeing her teacher's face, expressions, pronunciation of words, etc., and so on. So I won't ever put her in a mask. I don't know if you guys caught the viral video that went around with Manchester. They had just been forced to wear masks, and a big, it was like 200 or so kids walked into school without wearing masks. I don't know if that's what it takes for us to do stuff. Consent of the governed, you probably heard that phrase before, but it's really important to reflect on that, consent of the government, because this doesn't work unless you have the consent of the government. And I'm not trying to threaten, I'm not, obviously, anything like that. I'm just saying it's important for you to realize that this is a very personal decision for parents, and I don't think the health department should have anything to say or do. It should be between the schools and the parents, and specifically the parents and the kids. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Just a quick question. Is there a mechanism of accountability for the decisions of people that make these decisions? These are not voted positions. person in charge of making the decision reflective of the government.
As Mr. Fry said earlier, I apologize for my voice. It's going to be very hard to hear me. I wish I had the pictures up there. I wish at least it was volume. We are not employees of the health department. Most are not employees of the government. I am, since I'm the Lenawee County Commissioner. I am the commission liaison for Board of Health. Obviously, there is one way you can hold me accountable. Don't be out of office. Unfortunately, I'm not running next term, so that can't be done either. But the rest of these people are not employees.
Officer is appointed by Board of Commissioners.
I'm sorry?
The health officer is appointed by the Board of Commissions.
I'd like to finish if I could. The rest of these people here are not employees of the health department, nor are they employees of Lenawee County government. They are from various and other fields. I was a farmer, an educator. So they're not. I'm sorry?
Would you mind introducing yourself and maybe giving us a...
I'm Angie Carlton. I am the secretary for the Board of Health by county job description. I'm the administrative aide for the health department, and being the secretary for the Board of Health is in my job description. I am not an appointed position.
You are not an employee?
I'm an employee of the health department, but not an appointed position
Okay.
on the board.
Okay, so you are a government employee?
Yes.
And Martha Hall, you are a government employee?
Yes, I am.
And what is your name, gentleman with the black mask on you?
My name is Martin Marshall. I am the Lenawee County Administrator.
So you're all government employees?
That is correct.
And you've been elected as an administrator?
I am not elected. I am hired by the Board of Commissioners. I
He's the
serve
one that made the mask mandate for this building.
That's correct. I serve at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners.
So the Board of Commissioners takes these off. So the Board of Commissioners changes, these guys change. Yeah. Follow me?
Right, so
When we were going to start our conversation, I'm gonna go around and have everybody do an introduction, so you guys know who we are before we start talking amongst ourselves.
So we have 4 government employees and 4 non-government employees, is that correct?
I am not a government employee. I'm a Lenawee County Commissioner. I'm elected.
He's elected.
So who makes the final say? Is it Martha or do you guys vote?
5 and 3. 5 and 3.
Okay, why don't we do our introductions now?
Yeah.
So I'm John Tuckerman. I'm a farmer in Blissfield. I'm chairman of the Board of Health.
I'm John Fry. I'm from Tecumseh. I work in Clinton. I am a Board of Health member. I have been for the last 25 years. I'm the senior member of the Board of Health, and it is an appointed position. We recommend, the 5 of us recommend to the county commission the one person that goes off every year. Every year, one of these people stands for reappointment. And then we suggest, do we want Dr. Tritt to be reappointed? If she says she wants to be reappointed, we suggest it to the county commission. The county commission then affirms our appointment for 5 years. So we rotate every 5 years, one of us goes off. And am I supposed to say anything else? I'll get there eventually.
I'm Dr. Lori Tritt. I'm a veterinarian in Tecumseh, and I'm the animal health liaison for One Health, basically, for this board. And I also do a lot with the county fair, so that's where my interaction is.
And believe it or not, there's a lot of cross. We had Dr. Howard Pennington as the veterinary on staff before, and there's a lot of cross between the veterinary animal world and the human world, and we value Dr. Tritt's opinions greatly.
Can I ask a question? How many of you are human medical doctors or any health in the health profession?
I am not a doctor. I have a master's degree in public health.
I'm shocked. Our health department isn't even run by people who know about health.
We do have a medical director.
I thought you would all be medical doctors. I didn't know.
Dr. Dennis Chernin is our medical director,
Does he?
and he's a doctor, and I guess that's what you call him, a doctor, and he comes to our meetings, he suggests to us, we pull ourselves together.
He's the only one that has the credentials, pretty much,
Right,
and he's not here.
well, he couldn't be here because of a previous commitment, and he's,
Or the decision has already been made. I recommend you respect sovereignty, or you might hear the march of drums one day.
Oh, yeah.
Have a nice
goodbye, good night, thank you.
So how do you get her out of office? That's what I want to know.
Why are we entertaining this?
The Board of Commissioners has the power to hire and fire its employees.
Why are we entertaining
Is that
this?
right, Mr. Marshall?
Right?
Well, the thing that amazes me is we're here, we call this meeting tonight because this is a very important issue.
You should have been here.
And we want to talk about this, and we made it, it's a public meeting, we're here to discuss this. Dr. Chernin did give us a 3-page letter of his opinion. I spoke with him, and
Give your email address to Angie, and she will send you a copy of that.
we're all concerned citizens just as you are. That's why we sit on this board. It's an oversight committee. We don't make medical decisions, it's an oversight committee.
So did you already decide on the mandate before this meeting took place?
No, ma'am, we certainly did not.
Okay.
And you wouldn't have had this meeting if it hadn't been for the Board of Health suggesting that we hear the input from the community. And that's what we're doing. We're listening.
That's our job.
Can you talk us through the decision-making process? So this mandate that's being discussed.
Yes.
When would the vote take, is that, what would happen, is a vote of the board, or walk us through the process of decision-making?
We will meet on the 18th. What's the next Wednesday? It's our regular scheduled meeting. I'm sure under old business we'll discuss this.
Okay.
But in truth and reality, Martha has the power to do this based upon what we've learned.
Okay, so I appreciate you
But
being
we're
frank.
going to make a
You're having
recommendation to her.
Okay. You're having a discussion, but she'll be the ultimate decision maker, correct?
Mr. Marshall, that's correct?
With no medical credentials.
Not a doctor.
We give her the direction and tell her what she
Well,
may do.
let's not forget Governor Whitmer isn't a doctor either.
Neither was his
Wait a second. Wait a minute.
How come this
No,
guy's not getting
this
kicked out?
lady has not had the opportunity to speak and be introduced.
We should have done that in the beginning, not now.
My name is Leanne Minton.
All right.
I'm a former school teacher, and one of the things I taught my students is you listen, you be polite.
Wear a mask, right?
Yes, and I may very well have said wear a mask. But there is absolutely no reason to threaten, to bully, to cajole, to condemn. We are simply citizens making a decision. We're doing the best we can.
It's okay for you and I.
We're doing the best we can.
No, you're not.
We did not have to invite you here.
No, she didn't.
Do you believe in choice?
I'm trying to offer some choice here.
We took Governor Whitmer's power away.
Here is. If one of us says something and 18 of you start chiming in, we can't hear any of you. We have no idea what it is saying, that man especially. If 18 of you or 20 of you jump up and say, start ranting and raving about something that's wrong, or whatever.
Transparent.
We can't hear it, because you're all talking together. There's something cacophony that we can't hear. So if we say something, one of you maybe asked, if we say something, wait till we're done, and then you can do it. We sat up there, not one of us interrupted when any one of you spoke. Not one. You owe us the same dignity.
I have one question. Are you guys done introducing yourself? Sorry.
Yes, we've met, Terry Collins is the county commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Martha, I asked you earlier, but you
Why are they allowing this to happen?
say my kid had it last year and his antibodies
Why are they
are
allowing this
still
to
really high, like as high as someone who just got vaccinated. How does that work for not quarantine?
Why are we entertaining these
Since,
questions?
you know, the vaccine
Why?
and absolutely doing the same thing that we want, right? So how does that work?
And I thought that we addressed that before with.
No, I didn't.
Well, you said 90 days.
Oh, yeah,
So
so.
she's
if-
talking
You said
beyond
90 days. I want to know if my kid still has really high antibodies, will they quarantine still?
So the standard quarantine guidance, what we follow, the standard CDC quarantine guidance. So if we've got that 90 days, an infection within 90 days, then we would count that and that person would not have to quarantine.
Right, but if his antibodies are still extremely high, just like maybe a kid that just got vaccinated, how is that any different? Since we're both trying to get to the same goal there with natural immunity or the hope, whatever. How is that not relevant? Where
Like I
did
said, we
90
would-
days come from? That's what she wants to know.
If-
Where did the 90 days?
So the 90 days was based on studies that were done as far as natural immunity that was, existing in a time frame after an infection.
Is there any discussion going on changing that? Because that doesn't make sense if my kid had it a year ago or 90 days until the same amount of antibodies.
Yeah,
What I'm getting at.
I don't have a number for you to be able to
Right,
say,
but is
yes,
there any
we would be able
discussion
to
of
do
changing
this.
that? Are we working with the science?
We would, like I said, we follow the guidance of CDC. So if CDC comes out with guidance that says you can base it on an antibody level, then we would look at that.
Natural immunity lasts forever. The problem is viruses and colds mutate, but your body will still recall. Say you got COVID-19, and then the Delta variant comes around, your body will still recall the COVID-19, and it will assist your body while your body has time to make antibodies for the new variant. This is natural. If you are healthy, you will be fine. Like I said before, people do struggle if they have health issues, but let our bodies do what they are designed to do. And it's sad that we're not giving natural immunity, which is the absolute best immunity possible. We're not giving it any validation.
Everything's public
Yeah,
comments over.
I just want to know why constituents would pay you guys if all you're going to do is follow the recommendations of the CDC and not the constituents themselves. We can cut you out and just follow the CDC in general, right? It doesn't make any sense that you would just, regardless of the opinions of the people who pay you guys, make a decision based off the ones above. I don't know.
Are we aware that the CDC is strictly a patent holding entity? Because the government cannot hold patents, so the CDC does, where Fauci has his patents. Do you understand the structure of the CDC and what it is?
Well, they're
And
expanding
you're
into
very
housing now.
naive, you're very naive to follow it. There was a smallpox study done recently, 92 people who were taken who were still survivors of smallpox. And they found they still had the natural immunity to smallpox in their system because they had lived during that period. The CDC is not a bastion of superior thought. Fauci has a lot to do with it. He's got a huge interest in it, and it's a patent holding entity because your government cannot hold a patent.
Correct.
He's also a major stockholder in Moderna.
Wait a second, ma'am. Mr. Swift has been
Well, I'm just wondering if we're going to have go through public comment again.
He's raised his hand and he wants to be recognized. Mr. Tuckman, will you recognize Mr. Swift?
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering if we're going to have another round of public comment. It was several hours of public comment. I feel like we hear what the majority of the people want.
Are you mad because we're engaging us in conversation?
I'm mad because you guys continue to spread misinformation and you continue to put people's health at risk. So, anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm just wondering.
Young lady in the back.
I'm here as a parent, not as a middle school principal. Please, guys. I just want clarification. Is this only for K-12 or we're making a decision for? So what I'm asking is, what's going to impact if I go to Meyer?
K-12.
Okay. So what I'm asking as a principal, and I'm not going to speak for all principals and all educators, we teach kids right from wrong, and so do you parents. They ask us why. I need help with that, okay? Because I tell kids don't bully. I tell them not to be mean to people. They get right and wrong. They get don't murder. They get that. They understand that. It's very logical. When they ask me why I have to wear a mask, I'm having a hard time explaining that anymore because I don't understand. You wear a mask in school, but they don't have to wear a mask somewhere else. They don't have, when they cross the county line, you guys, they don't have to. And I don't know what to tell them. I don't know how to logically do it. I'm a pretty smart person, I like to think.
Terry?
I don't know everything, but I just want help on explaining that.
Something you have to bear in mind, you're talking about the schools versus Walmart or Myers or whatever.
I know.
The schools, this building, the government buildings downtown are public buildings, subject to control. Myers, Kmart, Walmart, Country Market, or wherever they happen to be, are buildings that are privately owned, open to the general public, two legally different entities.
Yep.
Authority can be exerted here, it cannot be here.
Yep. I can explain that. I can explain that. Yeah. What I want to explain is if it's to protect them, and I want to say is to keep them safe so they don't get upset, I want to do that. I don't want to say because I said so. And I don't want us to live in a place that's because we said so. So I respect all of you. It's very hard. It's very hard for all of us educators. We're very angry, and we are parents too. And I do get my kids.
So to go off the coach of her comment really quickly, I think that's actually important to really grasp and focus on because this isn't a Lansing mandate. So we all recall the time where Lansing dictated that Meyer and the schools and everywhere in public, we had to wear a mask and we had to, abide by it. That's no longer in effect. I think it's important to kind of focus on that. So now, Gretchen Whitmer isn't telling us that we have to, here in Lenawee County, have our students subjected to a mask mandate. And we're not going to force Meyer and other private companies to do that. And yet now, you're suggesting that we have our students, our kids, subjected to that at school. So just the flaw in kind of, it takes also almost like mental gymnastics to really understand. We don't have our governor mandating it, but you all are choosing. I guess Martha, I appreciate John, you were frank and blunt and honest. Martha, you're considering doing it for our kids when Gretchen isn't requiring it. We're not going to require our kids to wear it at Meyer or at any other public place, but you're considering it for our school. So just logically, that doesn't seem to make sense, and ethically, and for a bunch of other reasons. So I want you to I'm talking directly to you now, Martha. I want you to understand that the whole decision now is coming down on your shoulders. And I understand there's going to be a recommendation, and I'm not sure what that recommendation will look like. I think in transparency, those should be public records, and those should be open to the public to see what the recommendation was, so that this doesn't all fall on Martha, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So we're all going to know, everyone in this room and beyond this room here in Lenawee County, we're all going to know that you're the decision maker.
Martha,
so just realize that.
Would it be possible for you to verbalize your thinking and why you think it would be a good idea, why this board is here, getting information?
Absolutely. So, when at the beginning of the meeting, when we talked about what we were seeing as far as the increase in cases here in the county, and I think we've heard several comments tonight about the death rate and that, you know, that there's very few children that die. But I think that we need to think far beyond. It isn't just the number of people that die, whether it's children or other people from COVID. There are long-lasting effects that are associated with COVID. There are people that they might have recovered from COVID, but they still are not back to their pre-COVID life. So I think we need to keep that in mind. We also need to think about what are we seeing in other states that are further ahead right now in this Delta outbreak. We are seeing far more children being hospitalized than what we have seen previously. And that is something that I would rather not wait until we're at a point where that we're seeing that here and our children here in Lenawee County are being impacted. And I'm part of this community also, so there aren't any of these decisions that I take lightly. And I want you all to understand that. You know, I think that, you know, we've heard a lot about masks and that masks don't work. Well, there's a lot of evidence out there that would suggest otherwise. And the masking is something that when we're talking about wearing a mask, having universal masking so that individuals are, so it's for source protection, trying to help to keep those respiratory droplets here rather than going out. So, and there is significant evidence regarding masking. There are many, many peer-reviewed studies. And nothing is 100%. Whether we're talking about social distancing, we're talking about wearing a face mask, cleaning, ventilation, none of those are 100%. But they all offer protection. They all offer some protection. And so the idea is to have those layered prevention strategies so that the kids are protected. And I think it's really important to think about the fact that when we have children going to school to get educated, it's a requirement to get educated. It's a requirement to go to school. So it is also a requirement for those staff and the teachers there at the schools to go in and perform their jobs in order to be able to make that education happen. And so looking at the mask mandate is really about protecting the whole community. It's beyond just inside the school. What about the children in there that might have compromised immune systems, or teachers or other staff that might be in that situation? They might be wearing a mask, which is offering some protection, but they would be far more protected if other people were also wearing a mask.
Sounds like your mind made up.
You asked what I was thinking. I'm trying to be very open with you.
I personally appreciate your commentary and walking through your mindset, but the one thing that I'm reflecting upon as you're talking is you didn't really speak to the issue that I raised in regards to all of these, you mentioned other states and their numbers and a couple other facts, and yet these are all facts and all information that Gretchen Whitmer has at her desk. And she has the ability at a statewide level to pass these mandates to all schools. So if she's concerned, and I imagine she's as concerned as you are, as we all are, about the kids of the state, she would then, if she's looking at the same facts and information that you're looking at and you're telling us about, she would be able to, within her power as the governor, to mandate from the health department law that you're using on a local community level, county level, she'd be able to do that, am I wrong? On a state level, as she's done in the past.
The director of Michigan.
Exactly, so you know what I'm saying, her administration. What I'm saying to you though, if they're not doing that on a statewide level, and they're leaving that up to counties, why then would you take it upon yourself when clearly she doesn't think it's a large enough issue to put us under a lockdown for our schools and our communities and our Meijer and our Walmart and our private and public areas? Why then would you choose to, it doesn't jive. The mental gymnastics that it feels as if you are more inclined, or maybe you feel like you have more knowledge than the governor. That's what's confusing to me.
No regard for that.
Because at a governor level of the state, this is not being done. But now you're coming alongside and saying, you know, we might not have this going on in all counties in Michigan.
Can I interrupt you a minute?
Absolutely.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
The way I look at it, and as a layperson,
Okay.
is that the governor, the superintendents, nobody wants to put up with what we put up with tonight. Making a decision.
Don't do it. Don't have
The water's too hot.
Leave us alone.
The water's too hot. But I want to say, to me, the reason I thought this was important and worth discussing, I really didn't think about, my granddaughter just started kindergarten. I really didn't think about a lot of the conversation that was brought up, and a lot of the conversation that you said about your children and the stress and stuff, that was eye-opening to me. But the thing that I'm concerned about is that kids go to school, they intermingle from all over the place, they go to sporting events, and then they go home and the spread skyrockets. And so it's
gonna go on forever. It's gonna have years for Walmart.
Well, that's one opinion, but
Nowhere did she
not- it's not
address.
Mr. Commands has had his hand up a long time, and we're gonna end this pretty quick. What would you like to say?
I want to direct this right to you, the bottom line decision maker, the grand bottom of this room. Let me put it this way. This is how government works. They get out a nice little piece of paper and a pencil and they write all these things down and they draw pictures of how wonderful this is going to be, all the lives we're going to save, okay? Then in reality, my wife teaches, and not only that, I go to stores and I see people. I see people with their mask on their chin. There's kids. These kids don't keep their masks on.
They don't. It's a scam.
I mean, then there's the reality of the situation, which government has a real hard time understanding the reality of the situation. Now, enough of the science stuff. All the science on both sides.
No, there's not.
Science on both sides.
No, there's not.
Fact of the matter is that we are either a free people with individual sovereignty and liberty, and we're adult enough to make our own decisions, for our family members, or we're not. Do we live in a free country where we make the decision, or do we live under Marxism and communism where we go with what you, the whole county has to go with what you say? You know what that is? That's a crock of crap, is what it is.
It's a republic. It's a republic.
One person should not have your power. It's too much for one person.
Yeah.
You should be
It doesn't matter.
You should be afraid of
It doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, my problem.
I thought, and I might have been mistaken, and if I am, tell me, and one of the gentlemen mentions transparency, and John says, we're gonna discuss this next week at the board meeting. I thought the reason we had called this special board meeting was to decide whether or not to give Martha permission to make her.
If it's so urgent, shouldn't we do it now?
Yes, I agree.
We got lives to save. Let's go.
Yes, let's do it.
Now we know you're going to do it.
Mr. Marshall has his hand up. He's been recognized by the vice chair.
To clarify what Leanne is talking about, what the board would be doing is a recommendation.
That's right.
Yes.
You take away that
I
recommendation?
mean, I thought that was the purpose of this meeting. And one of the things is John said we're going to meet next week. These people are here now. They may very well not us what we decide, but they will leave this meeting knowing what it is we decided.
Amen to that.
Transparency.
and you wish to speak to the matter, then speak to the matter.
Well, it's obvious that not all of us are on the same page, because Terry agrees with John.
I definitely.
That's a rarity, folks.
I definitely, have heard things tonight, that I wanna mull over my mind.
I will simply say, excuse me, I will say one thing.
I wanted to.
Half of the world wears masks regularly. They are not traumatized.
They still get COVID. Sweden doesn't, they have immunity.
My arm's getting tired. Let me interject for 1 second. University of Michigan's positivity rate doubled from last week to this week. And we are talking about a university that mandated a vaccine and masks in buildings.
That's right.
Doubled in 1 week.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the highest.
Okay, wait.
100,000 people in the stadium.
Common sense factor
Guys,
here.
Terry Collins is up on the board and he's trying to speak and he can't be heard because he has some issue and nobody is respecting him to let him speak. I like what he has to say. He has to say that we brought a lot of good information tonight and he wants to research it.
Mr.
So
Charles,
that
I
he can give
apologize. I
them
just wanted to get that stat out.
Stand up to the easier. The reason I personally would like to wait till next week is I do have a lot of information, most of which came from you people, that I want to mull over. I'll be very candid with you. I came here based on information I had, I saw, I read, and received, that probably was the best thing to do. I just don't believe it, I don't know. But I am concerned about the emotional trauma I'm hearing about. I'm concerned about the psychological trauma I'm hearing about. I'm concerned about several other issues. So I'm not going to say whether I'm in the phone or out. I just want to mull this.
I think that's important to give you guys time to digest it.
If the young lady
Oh,
is
yeah,
still
thanks
here,
for that.
Came up here and talked about the sexual assault. I'm a 30-year police veteran. I retired as the police chief for the city of Baker. What you did here was the strongest thing I've ever seen in my life. I have seen sexual assaults by the hundreds, and most of them shrivel up. What you did there, you have my admiration.
We'll be back if we have to.
She left, but we will definitely let her know, but that was hard for her.
Is the next meeting on the 18th, is that gonna be an open meeting?
No, it's Wednesday, right? What time? Wednesday is not.
Right here, the public's welcome?
It has to be an open meeting. It's posted on the county website. We meet the third Wednesday of every month at 4 o'clock, and we meet in this room.
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday, a week from today,
What time?
4 o'clock.
Can we have a good PA system ready to go next time?
I won't guarantee that. You get me because I have a big mouth, but there you are.
The vote will be on 18th, correct?
We will make a recommendation to the health officer.
Yeah, it's not a vote. They make a recommendation and then we decide.
Martha, I did not hear you in your analysis there of what you gave off most recently. Any homage paid to natural immunities? Or what the gentleman brought out about Sweden and many other countries where they haven't pushed the mask? You did statistics and read that stuff off, very government oriented, but nowhere did you talk about the natural immunities that you are suppressing or obliterating.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move we adjourn. Thank the people for coming and look forward to seeing them next time. Is there a second to my motion?
Yes.
Moved and supported?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Say it anyway, Beth.
We stand adjourned. Any of you that would like to continue to have conversation, feel free.
Doesn't it concern you that you have this much power, one person? It's a republic, buddy. It's a republic. The legislature of the state of Michigan set up the rules. I can talk to whoever the